Okay, everybody, welcome to class. We've reached week two. Now, as I always state, I hope everybody in this room and I hope everybody at home, before you watch this video, before you attend this class, I hope you did your homework. What does that mean? That means I hope you read the procedures that we assigned for this week's class, which was 304, General Regulations, and 305, Uniforms and Equipment. Because if you came to class unprepared today, if you were watching this video unprepared today, you will get very little out of this class. Okay, but you have read the procedures. Okay, you are prepared for class, you did your homework, you will get a lot out of today's class. My number one rule, I try to hit everyone who enters this room, and I say to everybody at home, did you do your homework? Because to be successful, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time and effort. I could help you, I could guide you, I could coach you, but you got to dedicate the time and effort to be successful. Okay, so please everyone turn to the front cover. Don't even open it. The front cover of today's lesson. What I want to start with is to let you know what we're doing today, our goal for today's class, and I want to let you know what your homework is for next week. All right, today, what we're going to do is we're going to review duties and responsibilities. We're going to spend about 10 minutes on a true and false review. And then we're going to tackle block number 1, about an hour and a half going over 304 General Regulations. We will then take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish with block number 2, about an hour, 65 minutes long, with 305 series, uniform and equipment. Okay, so that is our goal for today's class. And of course, we have to know what you need to know for next week's class. So your homework assignment is Important Administrative Guide Procedures. Now, I got a lot to say about this. Please turn to the back of today's lesson. In the back of today's lesson, you have a chart, okay? Important Administrative Guide Procedures. Okay, please turn to that chart. I want to discuss it. Okay, so when you get to that chart, it says Important Administrative Guide Procedures, starts exam history. Okay, after that, please look up for a second. Administrative Guide, series. Certain ones, you have to know the whole entire series, like today's lesson, 304, General Regulations. It used to be in the Patrol Guide. Okay, and a few years ago, they wanted to shuffle things up, and they put it in the Administrative Guide. I treat it like a Patrol Guide series because everyone must know General Regulations for all promotional exams. And the exact same thing with uniforms and equipment. It's now an Administrative Guide, but it used to be in the Patrol Guide. I cover it like any other Patrol Guide procedure, Patrol Guide series. Okay, you got to expect to see questions. You always do. Even since they've moved it, okay, you get questions on General Regulations and uniforms and equipment. Okay, same thing with discipline. Discipline used to be in the Patrol Guide. They moved it to the Administrative Guide. We still cover it like any other Patrol Guide series. Okay, but then we have a lot of procedures that used to be in the Patrol Guide, and they moved it to the Administrative Guide, but you, on a sergeant's exam, is still responsible for those Administrative Guide procedures. Now, it would be foolish to cover the whole Administrative Guide, because you're not responsible for most of the procedures in Administrative Guide. It's very captain's heavy procedures. So what do? I took all the miscellaneous Administrative Guide procedures that you need to know for your exam, and I made up a series of it. If you go to book number 1 of your printed Elite Patrol Guide, and you go to book 1, open it, the first series you have is Duties and Responsibilities 202. Then you have 304, General Regulations. Then you have 305, Uniforms and Equipment. And then you have Important Administrative Guide Procedures, followed by Discipline, followed by Complaints. Please, I warn everyone, do not just read the whole series, because I break up that series into 2 weeks, what I refer to as Important Administrative Guide Procedures, and later on in the course, we'll cover Miscellaneous Administrative Guide Procedures. So it's a pretty thick series. We are not covering every one of those procedures at next week's class. We are going to cover what I refer to as the important administrative guide procedures. We're going to be covering 31 procedures for next class. That's your homework assignment. So, now, digital guide, BlackBerry Workspaces. If you use that to study, open up the digital guide right on the bottom. Okay, you have important administrative guide procedures. Open up that series and study the procedures I'm about to go over. So when we look at our homework, your homework is important administrative guide procedures. On the procedures that we're going to go over, they average 7.1 questions. Got to expect to generally see about 7 or 8 questions on this series. Remember, the whole concept of looking at this chart before you start studying that series is we're looking to determine how many questions we're fighting for on exam day on the procedures we're covering that week. And next week, we're fighting for about 7 to 8 questions, which is very high. Typically, I cover about 5 questions a week. Next week's a little high, about 7 questions on average. So now we know what we're fighting for with that homework sheet. And please be aware, these homework sheets, the history sheets and the prioritization sheets, they're always in the back of the lesson the week prior. We always hand out, hey, here's your homework for next week. So you could always look there. Or on the learning management system, under the assignment folder, you have the history sheet and the prioritization sheet. You could look for it there. Okay, but it's always there for you to reference to make sure you're prepared for class. So now, turn the page. Let's look at the prioritization sheet. These are the specific procedures you must study for next week's class, week 3. Okay, remember, don't study all the procedures in that series of my printed elite guide or the digital elite guide. Only study these procedures listed. 31 of them. That's your homework, everyone. Do not come to class next week. Do not watch the next class video until you study those 31 procedures. Now, reminder, when you start studying these procedures for next week, after you finish this week's assignment, should you study 32001, exchange of tours for uniform member service? Okay, first. Should I go in order? No. You want to go in priority order. Study all the 5s first, then study the 4s, then the 3s, then the 2s, then the 1s. I want you to study every procedure on this list, but study in priority order. And remember the whole concept behind it. The whole concept is, hey, you know what? You may get to about 25 procedures, and then you're going to run out of time, and class is going to be here. And you got to go to class the next day. You only study 25. Well, I don't want that to happen, but sometimes it will happen. And you're going to have to use the catch-up week to catch up on those procedures. Don't you want to study the procedures you're more likely to see on exam day? Okay, and if you run out of time, you can run out of time on procedures you're less likely to see. That is the whole concept. So everybody study these procedures next week and go in priority order. Regular sick and admin sick. Yeah, you should study those procedures first. Line of duties. Oh my God, that's an important one. Yeah, every exam. Okay, and if you've turned a page and you see evaluations, 33109, police officer, detective specialist, multi-quarterly performance review and rating system, and 33201, employment discrimination and the display of offensive material. Oh my God, that's so important. You see it in the news a lot lately. Okay, somebody found some sex toy on his desk. We need to know how to handle that. Okay, yeah, very frequently questioned how to handle the display of offensive material. The whole point is, study 31 procedures for next week, but study them in order. Okay, great. We know our homework. Now we'd like everyone to flip to the true and false review. And while you guys are flipping back to the true and false review, okay, there's a couple points I want to reinforce before we get started. I just want to review the 6-step process. Okay, this is what you should have did last week. Last week, you should have studied duties and responsibilities. Then, after you read the patrol guide, you went to class or you watched the video. After you did class, you went home and you read the lesson plan from cover to cover. You didn't skip anything. You reviewed the entire lesson. And hopefully the points I made in class, where you highlighted, circled, and underlined, will be emphasized. But you read all the duties, responsibilities. And then you went home after that review, 24, 48 hours, reviewing the whole lesson. You finished your assignments, your activities. Now, maybe you watched the core videos before. That's great. But maybe you didn't watch the core videos. Maybe you didn't get to the interactive learning modules. Do the interactive learning modules. Maybe you like IPEs, individual procedures explained. Watch those. Do all your activities after you reviewed the lesson. And then do questions. I can't emphasize it enough. Questions at the end of the week. Okay, the application is so powerful. You could say, hey, I just studied this one procedure and I want to answer questions on that one procedure. You could do that. The app will allow you to pick just questions on that procedure. You say, hey, I studied the whole series. I want questions on the whole series. The app will allow you to pick all the series, questions in that series. Use the application, okay, after you had done all the content. So same thing for this week, okay, that's coming up. You are going to hopefully read the patrol guide before class, review the lesson after class, do your activities, and then answer questions, and then start preparing for the following week. Important administrative guide procedures. Okay, please, that is how to be successful. All you got to do is do that. From now till exam day, now till December, you're going to be in phenomenal shape. Okay? That's why I start out with it. That's why I push you for your homework. You succeed, I succeed. You fail, I fail. I'll do anything I can to assist you. Okay, and one last thing about the Elite HQ app. When we hit week 4 and finish week 4, we're done with the first quarter of the course. We're going to give you exams, quarterly exam. And that application is almost identical to what you're going to see on exam day. Okay, I took the last odds exam. All right, I know how the software was laid out. I designed that application with my son Connor's help to be just like exam day, as close to it as I possibly could make. And that's why we always tell you with the exams, you don't want to take it on your mobile device. You don't want to take it on your iPad or your phone. You want to sit at a computer. And you're going to take that exam, that 100-question exam, just like exam day. Okay? And we're going to give you quarterly exams, 4 of them, midterms, 2 of them, okay? And lots of final exams at the end. Okay? Very, very important, that Elite HQ application. Okay, now please understand, myself and Connor, we work really hard to be perfect. I want my content always on the money with no errors. I want to give the class, and I don't want to make any mistakes. But guess what? I'm human. Sometimes I'll make a mistake. Please, if you hear something during class, raise your hand. Okay, we'll address it right away if I did make a mistake, because sometimes I will misspeak. It's not like I don't know the content, I will just misspeak, and we'll make sure that we'll correct that issue. Okay, and I ask you, if you're doing any of my content, a core video, interactive learning module, individual procedure explained, or a question, and you think I'm wrong, let me know. Guess what? I might be wrong, but then again, I might not be. And if I'm not, I'll explain to you why. Okay, and if I am, I'm gonna say thank you. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, and I will immediately fix the question or fix the content. Again, I work diligently to be on my money. Okay, but if you see something, please let me know. I will say thank you. Now, just one common thing, and this is for a lot of people at home more than everyone here. If you experience an issue with the Elite HQ application, 99.5% of the problems can be alleviated by deleting the Elite HQ, by shutting down all the apps that are running, by restarting your device to clear your cache, and then reinstalling it at hq.elitestrategictraining.com. And that will solve the problem. So if you do experience a problem, do that first. And then, if you still have a problem, please reach out to me. Let me know. Okay, let me know, hey, this is the problem. You know what I'm gonna do? Myself and Connor are gonna work with our technology guy to fix that problem for you and get you up and running. Okay, email us, call us, we're here for you. Please, again, I don't wanna hear, Mike, I haven't been able to answer questions in 2 days. Why don't you call me in the first hour that you couldn't answer questions. I will help you. Okay, so please, you have questions with the Elite HQ, you have a problem, let me know. Now, can I do a quick survey? Who likes the interactive learning modules? You know, where we have that orange symbol and uses them. Please raise your hand high so I could see it. Okay, very good. And if you don't like them, that's fine, as long as you tried them. Highly recommend you try the interactive learning module to see if you like it. And some people say, again, Tana, he doesn't like it. So, he maintains it, but he doesn't use it to prepare for class. I always use it. Now, just a quick tip. If you are using an interactive learning module on your mobile device and the words are too big, okay, and they're off the screen and they're on the pictures, that means that your device, the fonts on that device are set too high. Okay, all you gotta do is go to your settings on your device, lower the font size, okay, and it will be perfect. And if you have an issue with it, call me, I'll walk you through it. Email me or hit me on the break and we'll walk you through it. All right, and this is more for people at home. Verification code. Setting up the verification code. +1, your area code, phone number. +1. +1. The plus sign, 1. Then your area code, phone number. That's how to set up verification code. Okay, and I want to give you one last piece of advice before we get started here is this. Up at the front of class, I have a hole puncher, okay? You could take each lesson and you could put in that hole punch and punch holes in it. I advise you to do that. And then I'd get a 3-ring binder and I'd put it in my binder. Every 4 weeks, I'd put my binder together and have those lessons all together in that binder. And if something changes, my tracking sheet will indicate what's changed. You can print out that one page, okay, and insert it into that binder and make sure that content's up to date. When we hit week 20, you'll have 4 binders, 4 quarters, and your content will always be there for you to study and review. Okay, so start right now. Take that lesson, put holes in it, put in the 3-ring binder, and then if something changes in it, keep updating it. I will show you what changes, okay, with the tracking sheet. Okay, as soon as something changes, I'll let you know. And again, I tell you of any changes that affect the lesson that we've handed out. Okay, there it is, everyone. There's my introduction. We got to get started with the meat and potatoes today. Please turn to your review. Page number 1 of 2 for our review. Week number 1 review, 202, duties and responsibilities. Okay, remember, as I said, it's just a short, true and false review to hit some main points that we covered at the last class. And I would like to start with question number 3. RMP recorder is required to notify the radio dispatcher of the presence of a non-member of the service, the time entering the RMP, the gender, the beginning mileage, and notify the radio dispatcher of the time the person exited the RMP and the ending mileage upon arrival at the destination. What do you think? Is it a true or is it a false? Yeah, it's a true statement. So put everyone a T there, you know that. And I always tell you, do not mix up that information that you will tell the radio dispatcher with what has to be written in your digital activity log. We have the acronym TRIP, T-R-I-P-P. Time trip starts, results of the inspection, ID of the person being transported, place began and end of trip, and the purpose of the trip. Does the gender go in your activity log? No. Does the mileage go in your activity log? No. Trip goes into your activity log. Don't mix it up with what the radio dispatcher is told. Now let's drop down question number 6. Now, when we're doing these questions, my advice is if a question is false, okay, cross out the bad information and write in the good information. Okay, so let's read question number 6. The desk officer is required to prepare the daily vehicle assignment sheet on each tour. So far, so good? Yes, that's a true statement so far. Maintain sheets for the current month on a clipboard behind the desk and verify the daily vehicle assignment sheet when performing duty with the 1st platoon. Yes, it's still good so far. The desk officer will also prepare a precinct consolidated tour report on every tour and attach it to the daily vehicle assignment sheet. Yeah, what the hell is this precinct consolidated tour report, you should be saying? Cross it out, everyone. Cross out that last sentence. Because yes, there used to be a precinct consolidated tour report that had to be done on every tour, but it was revoked. Okay, it no longer exists. Cross it out, and that would be a true statement if we cross out that last sentence. And then let's drop down to another duty of the desk officer, question number 7. The desk officer is required to perform checks of command email account immediately upon the start of tour and again during the 4th hour of the tour, and certify entries in the telephone dispatch log by signing the log after the 4th hour and end the tour. What do you think? Yeah, this is a good statement. I kind of warned you at class last week not to mix up the certification of the telephone dispatch log and the email checks. Okay, the email checks are going to be done at the start of tour and again during the 4th hour. And the certification of the telephone dispatch log is going to be done by signing a log after the 4th hour and end of tour. The only thing I would have to add to this to make it even better statement, it's true as it stands, because where do you have to document the email checks? In the command log. You document it in the command log. You make a command log entry regarding those email checks. And let's go to question number 8. The desk officer is required to directly supervise the telephone switchboard operator, the police attendant, the command clerk, the patrol wagon operator, the arrest processing officer in conjunction with the ops coordinator and the community guide. What do you guys think? Is that a true statement? Yes, it is. You, the desk officer, will directly supervise. The acronym is CAPT++. CAPT++. Okay, now please look up a second. I do want to discuss something. Okay, last week, when I went over, you, the desk officer, have to assign certain people as a telephone switchboard operator. Okay, understand that when you assign a telephone switchboard operator, you want to assign a civilian. Because the civilian can't go on patrol, so you put them on the TS. And then you want to assign somebody on restricted or limited. That means they're restricted or limited, they can't go on patrol, so put them on the TS. And I even said I had modified, specifically limited or restricted. Understand modified assignment. Okay, in the patrol guide, what is the modified assignment? Modified assignment is when the captain above removes an individual's firearm and puts them on modified assignment. They're still members of the department, but they don't have firearms no more. Is that person on restricted or limited? Yeah. Okay, please be aware, in the guide, in the administrative guide, patrol guide, does it give you a definition of what limited means? No. Does it give you a definition what restricted duty means? No. Okay, in sum and substance, what they're trying to do is assign somebody who can't go on patrol. Okay, they specifically say restricted or limited. Is modified restricted or limited? Yes. Okay, but yeah, on exam day, they will probably use the term limited or restricted. Don't put them, or actually, do put them on the TS. Don't put a full duty if you can help it. Okay, great. Let's drop down to question number 9 and talk about a duty of the patrol supervisor. The patrol supervisor is required to report serious deficiencies in RP seatbelts to Lieutenant Platoon Commander or, in their absence, directly to the commanding officer. What do you guys think? Yeah, it's a true statement. Do you guys remember? I was like, oh shit, there's a serious deficiency with this seatbelt. I'm the patrol supervisor, Lieutenant Platoon Commander. Guess what? There's a serious deficiency with that seatbelt. Oh shit, the lieutenant's not working, Lieutenant Platoon Commander's not working. Tell your CO. Lots of prior questions. Make sure you're aware of that. And let's go to question number 10. The patrol supervisor is required to report derelictions of duty to whom? To the CO. Yeah, another true statement. Okay, now let's talk about question number 11. The supervisor of the neighborhood safety team is required to perform no duties other than the neighborhood safety patrol. When assigned to the neighborhood safety team supervisor, be cognizant of the location of the neighborhood safety team members and be able to contact personnel at all times and report to the special operations lieutenant. Does the NST report to the SOL? Yes, he does. This is a true statement. The only thing I would also tell you to be careful about is, remember, the supervised neighborhood safety teams, they want to combat violent street crimes. Okay, that's their goal as a neighborhood safety team. Okay, please turn a page. And let's talk about question number 16. All right, I warned you last week. Let's see if you remember my warning. Question number 16 states, the quality of life sergeant is required to monitor 311 and 911 quality of life calls for service and direct the overall response to these calls through all available personnel. Yeah, that's a full statement. Put a big F there, everyone. Now, there's a lot to write here, so instead of writing it, just drop down to the bottom of the page, go to the answer key and question number 16, and let's read it together. Do not mix up the duties of the desk officer patrol supervisor with the duties of that quality of life sergeant regarding these quality of life service calls. The quality of life sergeant is required to assume primary responsibility for the timely response to 311 and 911 quality of life calls for service. Okay, the command's desk officer and patrol supervisor will continue to monitor 311 and 911 quality of life calls for service and direct all response to these calls through all available personnel. Okay, remember, quality of life sergeant, okay, your primary responsibility is the timely response to 311 and 911 quality of life calls for service. Don't mix it up. Okay, that was a quick review, everyone. Okay, you go through the quick true and false questions. When you're doing them on your own, cross out the bad information, write in the good information, make those false statements true. Okay, let's turn to our lesson plan. Okay, let's turn to our cover sheet for 304 series, general regulations. Okay, I want to remind everybody, the cover sheet is going to be on every lesson. This cover sheet lists all the procedures in that lesson that we're going to be covering. Okay, in addition, it shows you the history. We averaged 2.7 questions on this series that we're about to cover. We see that this cover sheet indicates we have 21 procedures to go over in today's lesson for general regulations. It indicates there are 6 interactive learning modules, and there are 5 core videos on this series. And there is 162 questions, multiple choice, exam-like, Elite HQ questions for you to take on this series alone. Okay, in addition to another 100 in the next series. Think about that. Okay, that's over 250 questions you have just in this week's content. And those 250 questions are multiple choice exam-like questions. Okay, so use those questions, please. They will help you. Okay, so now let's turn to my first page of the lesson, page number 134, and let's start talking about Executive Order number 16 of 1978, Commissioner Investigation, Inspector General. Holy shit, excuse my language, 9 out of 14 exams right here. Can you believe that? 9 points. Okay, 1 point on 9 separate exams. All right, there's a core video on it, an interactive learning module on it. The core video is about 12 minutes long. Again, they don't always question you on this procedure, but guess what? It's highly frequently questioned. All right, now, so everybody, what I need you to do is, please look up for a second, and I need to discuss this. Lots of questions, 9 out of 14 exams. Is this executive order in the department's patrol guide? No, it's not. You're not going to be able to find it there. Is it in my Elite guide? It is. I hope you found it. It was the last procedure in 304 series general regulations. Okay. What happened was, back in 1978, okay, the current mayor, Mayor Koch, there was a serious corruption scandal involving city employees. And at that time, there was nowhere it was written, okay, that if a person became aware of corruption involving a city employee, that he had to report it. So the mayor, Koch, said, hey, no, we need an order that makes every city employee report corruption misconduct. Okay, so he wrote Executive Order number 16. Okay, and According to Executive Order number 16, all city employees are now required to report corruption misconduct. Okay, so let's read what this procedure or this executive order states. Top of page number 1, all members of the service have the affirmative obligation to report directly and without undue delay to the Commissioner of Investigation, DOI, and or fill number 1, everyone. Who else? The Inspector General. Please write it in there, Inspector General. You're going to report to the Commissioner of Investigation, DOI, and or Inspector General any and all information concerning conduct which they know or should reasonably know involves 1, corrupt activity, 2, other criminal activity, and 3, a conflict of interest by city employees or by persons dealing with the city. Okay, everybody, please look up for a second. I'm going to get up here on my podium, okay, to emphasize this. These exam questions on Executive Order number 16 are extremely easy. They're going to give you a little story, and it's going to involve a city employee involved in corruption or corruption or misconduct, typically. And the last sentence in the question will say, according to Executive Order number 16 of 1978, as amended, okay, what is your answer? It's very simple. You look at your choices and you say, is the Inspector General listed? If the Inspector General is listed, that is your answer. Next, you go through the list and the Inspector General isn't there. So you look for Commissioner Investigation, parentheses, DOI. Okay, if that is a choice, that's your answer. Or you drop down and you look for Inspector General and or Commissioner of Investigation, DOI. And if that's a choice, that's your answer. Put a point in your pocket. It's as simple as that. Okay, because city employees, as per the executive order, must report it to Inspector General and or the Commissioner of Investigation, DOI. Okay, now, I have to also warn you, and that's what my boxed out note says, they lock you into the executive order by saying, according to. But what happens if they give you a scenario regarding corruption and you, that member of the service, becomes aware of it, but they lock you in to Patrol Guide Procedure 20721, okay, members of the service reporting corruption misconduct. Does the answer now change? It does. Who do we report corruption and misconduct to as per the Patrol Guide? IAB's Command Center, easy peasy. But according to the executive order, we report it to Inspector General and or Commissioner of Investigation, DOI. Okay, now, just a little history. 2013 exam, I got a little feedback. At that exam, about 10,000 people took the exam. Okay, and I was absolutely stunned when they analyzed this question. 6,000 people got this question wrong. About 3,000 people got it right. Couldn't believe it. Okay, they didn't come to my class. Okay, because I'm telling you, nobody in this room, nobody better get this wrong. What's your answer when they lock you into Executive Order number 16? It's either Commissioner of Investigation, DOI, or the Inspector General, or the Inspector General and or the Commissioner of Investigation, DOI. Okay, you take the 7 questions in Elite HQ. They all pretty much say the same thing. Okay, if you know that, you got a point. Put it in your pocket. Let's move on. One last point. All members of service must know the contents of this order, and the order is to be tested on promotional exams. The executive order, written back 1978, says that they are going to question, okay, promotional exams in all departments, not just the NYPD. All right, let's turn the page. We're on page number 2, 30407, personal appearance. Just to let you know, I do the green sheets. You shouldn't be for bookmarks. So you could always see exactly where you are in the lesson and jump right to where you want to go. Personal appearance. This has been on 7 out of 14 exams. There is a core video on it. It's about 22 minutes long. There's an interactive learning module, and there is 20 Elite HQ questions just on this procedure. Okay, when we look at this, it's going to talk about your personal appearance, but I want to warn you, for many years, they also had in this procedure facial hair. No longer in this procedure. It has its own procedure we're going to talk about next. And also, it used to have religious head coverings that members of service could wear. Again, removed from this procedure and put in its own procedure we're going to go over next. Okay, now we're going over about wearing your hat, your cap, tattoos, hair rules, jewelry, fingernails, cosmetics, and eyewear. Be careful of the rules. Again, every other exam on average has a question on this procedure. I always laugh at the start of this procedure. Be neat and clean. Yeah, okay. And uniforms will be properly fitted, clean, well-pressed, and in good repair. No torn duty jacks or anything like that. Okay, and we're not going to advertise the type of shoes we wear. Shoes must be shined and will not display clearly visible company name or logo. Okay, we're gonna advertise, okay, for our shoe company. All right, and let's look at the cap, everyone. Do you have to wear your hat, your cap? Yeah, you're gonna wear it squarely on your head. No hairs to be shown beneath the visor, and the cap must be worn on 1 patrol foot post, 2 the traffic post, and 3 in details. Okay, so please look up. When you get out of your RMP, do you have to put your cap on? Yes. When you're in your RMP, do you have to have your cap on? No. Okay, but yes, when you get out of your RMP, you're supposed to put on your cap. Members riding in department vehicles may remove the cap while in the vehicle. That means when you're out of the vehicle, your cap should be on. Now, the next point, your cap in transit. I'm sorry, I don't know why, but I get a tremendous amount of questions about this next topic. Okay, it's not a difficult rule. Just understand when you're assigned to transit, performing subway patrol duties in uniform, sometimes of the year, you don't have to wear your cap. Okay, but guess what? When you get promoted, will that apply to you? No, when you get promoted, okay, you always have to wear your cap in transit. So let's read it. Cap in transit, police officers and detectives assigned to subway patrol duties in uniform have the option of wearing the cap during the period of May 1st to September 30th. Okay, supervisors, sorry, you gotta always wear it. Police officers and detectives assigned to subway patrol duties in uniform, between May 1st and September 30th, you don't have to wear your cap. All right, now, does anyone recognize those dates, May 1st to September 30th? Okay, will we talk about our summer, okay, hat? Can you wear a summer hat between those dates also? Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in optional uniform items in a little while. Okay, and short sleeve shirt, is that the same dates? Yes, it is. Short sleeve shirts can be worn. They're optional between May 1st and September 30th. Much more about those things when we talk about the second half of the class, uniforms and equipment. But right now, transit, police officers and detectives, subway patrol duties in uniform, option, don't have to wear that cap, May 1st to September 30th. Okay, let's drop down and talk about tattoos. Holy moly! 3 exams, 17, 13, 2009 for knowing the rule on tattoos. So let's get our pens out, okay? And you know what? I have to say, I see a lot of students with a lot of highlighters. That's a good thing. If you didn't bring any today, please remember, highlight, circle, underline. Because when you review the lesson after class, those points that you're circling, highlighting, and underline will be emphasized, even though you're reading the whole entire lesson. Members of service who are hired on or after, everyone let's fill it in. Number 2, January 1st. January 1st of 2007. January 1st of 2007 must cover any visible tattoos by either regulation uniform, proper business attire, or neutrally covered skin covering such as a sports wrap or bandage. Okay? Please look up for a second. I don't care if you're in the bag. I don't care if you're in plain clothes. If you are hired on or after January 1st, 2007, you have to cover tattoos. They're visible on your hand, it's gotta be covered. Okay, it's gotta be covered. I don't care if you're in uniform or not. You're at work, it's gotta be covered. But is there one exemption where somebody could allow you to have those tattoos visible? Yes. So look at the last bullet on the page. A limited exception may be granted by the member's commanding officer. Please note, highlight in writing, due to the nature of the member's assignment. Okay, and it's got to be filed in the member's personnel folder. Normally, on or after January 1st, 2007, covering those tattoos, but the CO could put it in writing and allow you not to cover those tattoos. Okay, know your tattoo rules, please. And let's turn the page. Another frequently questioned area of this procedure, hair. I personally never paid any mind to this, but hair. Remember, male or female, it doesn't matter. Okay, the rules apply to both. Okay, and this is where they've gone to unbelievable. And this is on the last 3 sergeant exams, got you a point. Are you ever allowed to have a ponytail? Never, ever, ever allowed to have a ponytail when you are in uniform. Never ponytail in uniform. What happens if I take my ponytail and I put my cap on it so you can't even tell I'm wearing a ponytail? If they tell you he got a ponytail hidden under that cap, that is prohibited. Okay, cannot have a ponytail, period. And look at the last 2 duties on the hair. Okay, any design shaved into the uniform member's hair or scalp are prohibited. And the newest update to this procedure, everyone, hair is to be naturally occurring. Okay, here it is. No blue hair. No green hair. Can I have red hair? That's naturally occurring. People get, gingers are out there, right? You can have red hair. You can have blonde hair. You can have brown hair. You can have black hair. But I guarantee you cannot grow blue or green hair. So no, they are prohibited. Now let's pause for a second. Please understand, I just said, hey, look, we got the newest part of this procedure. Should you all have known that? Yes, because if you read your patrol guide, your elite guide, printed or digital, you'll see that this area is highlighted, and it's highlighted with an RO number. That was a change since the last exam. So when you're studying, reading the guide before class, people ask me, Mike, do I have to read the guide? I highly recommend read the guide before class. Yes, I want you to read the guide. I want you to be successful. 3 months before the exam, well, maybe that'll change. But right now, I want you to read the guide. And then after class, you review the lessons. I don't have to go back to the guide? No, I go back to the guide if you need to look something up. Okay, to review a question, you need an answer in a question, look it up, procedure, very quickly, you can look it up. Okay, but read the guide before class. But you'll see any changes that have occurred since the last exam. They're grayed out, and they have the RO number. Okay, next thing, hair holding devices. Okay, note that there are good hair holding devices, and there are bad hair holding devices. Please don't mix the two up. Easy question to write on exam day. What are the bad ones? Okay, the bad ones are hair scarves, beads, bows, large decorative fabric-covered elastic bands, scrunchies, large plastic clips, or other ornamental items. Prohibited. Bad, 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 bad. No bad things. And then we have the good hair holding devices. Rubber bands, clips, berets, pins. As long as they're unadorned and plain and they be transparent or similar to the color of the hair, those are good hair holding devices. Know the good, compare it to the bad. Okay, jewelry. Everybody look up a second. On patrol, in uniform, are you allowed to wear a crown? No. Are you allowed to wear a necklace? No. Are you allowed to wear a bracelet? No. Those are all bad. Okay, but we do have one exception about the bracelet. What is the bracelet? Medical alert bracelet's okay. So it says, do not wear ornaments or jewelry visible on the head, the crown, the neck, the necklace, and the wrist, the bracelet, while performing duty in the bag, in uniform. Medical alert bracelets may be visible. And now we have watch bands, conservative color. I love it. They give us what conservative color is: navy, black, brown, yellow metal, white metal, or similar colors. Rings, some are good, some are bad. Rings may be worn. They are generally smooth and not likely to catch on objects. Rings with jagged raised stones are bad. Good versus bad, be careful. And then we got the fingernails, okay? I usually walk around class and I try to identify those female officers, or sometimes male officers, who have long fingernails with bright colors and rhinestones. Oh, those are bad things. We can't do that. So let's go over fingernails. Keep fingernails neatly trimmed and extending no more. Fill number 3, everyone. What's the maximum length? 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch from the fingertip. And raised or ornamental accessories that are worn or affixed to the nails are prohibited. No rhinestones, no jewelry attached to those fingernails. Okay, and the newest addition to this procedure, yes, it was an RO, nail polish is to be clear or conservative in color. The hot pink, the hot orange, bad, 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 bad. Cosmetics, no bozo the clowns, conservative color, conservative amount. Eyewear, conservative style, conservative color, and I love it. They tell you exactly what is not good. No neon or brightly colored frames. Eyeglass straps may be worn, but what color they gotta be? Black, and we'll talk about 305 uniforms equipment later on, and they highly recommend you use those black eyeglass straps. And lastly, in uniform and in public view. In uniform and in public view, don't chew gum. In uniform and in public view, don't use tobacco. I don't care if it's dip, okay, I don't care if it's smoking. You can't use tobacco, period. And in uniform or in public view, don't hold toothpicks in your mouth. Okay, there it is, personal appearance, know it, very important procedure. Let's turn the page. 30409, religious head coverings. This has been eligible for the last 2 exams. There was no questions on it. There is a core video, interactive learning module. It's actually part of 30407, personal appearance. Okay, this tells us 3 things. It tells us when we may wear a religious head covering, what the one restriction they give you about that religious head covering, and how to get permission to wear a religious head covering. Now, we're talking about us as members of the service, okay, specifically uniform members of the service wearing it, okay? And they also talk about traffics and school safety division, which are civilian members of the service. Written approval from OEO is required, okay? If you get written approval from OEO, you can wear that religious head covering, no problem. Written approval, OEO, wear it. But here's the restriction. All hair must be neatly tied inside the religious head covering, and in case of an incident where the use of a tight-fitting helmet is required, religious head covering must be removed to don the appropriate protective headgear. The shit is hitting the fan. The bricks are flying. I'm going to be willing to take off my religious head covering and put on my helmet. Yes, no problem. Okay, and lastly, how do I get permission? I fill out a form. Okay, I tell you it's the reasonable accommodation request form and it's submitted to OEO. But please look up a second. If you read the actual guide, it says this old form that was revoked a couple years ago, but they never updated it. You're going to see, okay, in a couple procedures in the future, yeah, it's right everywhere else. It's just wrong in this procedure. They call it the reasonable accommodation request for religious practices or observances. That's what it used to be, and then they switched it to this brand new form, reasonable accommodation request. Anytime I want a reasonable accommodation request for something, I fill out that form. Okay, so just be aware of a bit of a conflict in the guide. Okay, there it is. Not difficult, religious head covering. Let's turn the page, and let's start talking about 30408, facial hair policy. Okay, now, I say this has been on 7 out of 14 exams, but be aware, it used to be part of personal appearance. Now it has its own procedure. And yes, I've made its own core video. I have its own interactive learning module, and there are 15 questions on facial hair in your Elite HQ application for you to take. All right, now, what are we gonna cover here? First, we'll cover the general rule about growing facial hair, and then the 3 exceptions. Then we'll talk about how to apply for the medical or the religious exemption. And lastly, we'll talk about RapNet. Okay, so right up on top, facial hair standards, member to service, do not grow facial hair. Stop right there and look up. That's the rule, everyone. You are supposed to be clean shaven. You are not to grow facial hair. But we have 3 exceptions. Okay, you see how it could give you permission to wear it sometimes? to grow it sometimes. Your OEO can give you permission to grow it sometimes. And the police surgeon can give you permission to grow it sometimes. Okay, so let's go through each exception. Exception number 1, nature of assignment. Please highlight in writing. When approved in writing, fill in number 4, everyone, by the members who? Commanding officer, due to the nature of assignment. Okay, but this is a problem. Okay, please look up. Yeah, your commanding officer can say, hey, officer, you can grow facial hair. But you cannot grow facial hair in uniform. CO can get approve you to grow facial hair when you're not in uniform. But when you are in the bag, even if the CO says you don't have to shave, you can grow facial hair, you have to shave. His permission only grants you to grow facial hair when you're not in uniform. Okay, second exception, sincerely held religious belief. Once again, when approved, highlight in writing by OEEO, the Office of Equal Employment Opportunity, because of sincerely held religious belief. Okay, now, please look up, because we got a general rule on how long it could be, and we have one exception. Generally, how long can you grow your facial hair when you have written approval from OEO? Generally, it's a ½ inch. And if OEO says it's okay, can you grow it longer? Yes, you can. General rule, ½ inch, but can be grown longer with OEO's permission. And it's funny because when they implemented this a few years ago, okay, I taught this class, okay, and sure enough, there was somebody, they were laughing at the table. Okay, after class, they came up to me, yeah, we were laughing because, okay, we had an individual who was the one who challenged this procedure when you're saying that you could only grow your facial hair up to a ½ inch for a religious exemption. And he was for it, and he changed the system, okay, because he says, hey, my religion says I should grow it and I shouldn't have to shave, okay, and there's no reason why, okay, it has to be only a ½ inch. Okay, what are they going to grab you by the beard to hurt you and beat you up or something? So that's why, he was the reason why they say an OEO can allow you to grow it longer than a ½ inch. But we got to talk about the medical condition. Okay, can you grow facial hair for a medical condition? Well, when it's approved, once again, in writing by the police surgeon. Wow, your surgeon could allow it. Your police surgeon, concerned because of that medical condition. Okay, but here we have an absolute restriction, everyone. Facial hair may be grown up to only, fill in number 5, ½ inch. That's it. Never longer. Medical exemption, never, ever, ever longer. Okay, know your rule to shave, and then know the 3 exceptions when you can grow facial hair. Now, I don't care if you're growing facial hair because you have an exemption, it must be neatly trimmed. Okay, and an absolute prohibition, my boxed out note, second arrow. Members of service are strictly prohibited from growing 1, goatees, 2, designer beards, 3, trim strap beards, or display words, images, patterns, logos, or designs in their facial hair. Prohibited. Okay, that means I don't care if the commanding officer gave you permission, the OEO gave you permission, or the police surgeon gave you permission. You are never allowed to have a goatee, designer beard, or chin strap, or any words, images, or patterns, logos, or designs in your facial hair, period. Okay, now, let's start talking about how you get a religious accommodation to grow facial hair, or how you get a medical exemption to grow facial hair. If you want it, due to that sincerely held religious belief, you prepare the form, just like we talked about a minute ago. The reasonable accommodation request and give it to OEO. Okay, and if they approve it, they're going to give it to you in writing. And second, if you want to get a medical exemption to grow facial hair, it's a little bit more complicated. It's not just filling out the form and giving it to OEO. Here, you got to call the medical division sick desk, request an appointment, and if you don't have an appointment, they're not going to see you, of course, and you provide the district surgeon with medical documentation. Then they will give you a shaving restriction form if they approve it. And you, that member of service who wants that medical exemption to grow facial hair, will give that shaving restriction form to who? The ICO, the Integrity Control Officer. Here, Integrity Control Officer, here is my shaving restriction form. I am now approved. How long do I have this medical exemption for? 180 days. So let's turn the page and look on the top of page 6. How long? 180 days it lasts. That's right. But do I have to renew it after 180 days if I want to continue with that medical exemption? Yes, all members of service are required to schedule an appointment to renew the shaving restriction form. Here it is. They're giving you a guidance on when you're supposed to do it 1 month prior to the expiration date. I repeat, 1 month prior to the expiration date. And lastly, RapNet. You guys are going to become sergeants, okay? And somebody's got facial hair, okay? And you want to make sure that he has the exemption, maybe medical, maybe religious. How do you do it? Well, you go onto RapNet, you put in that tax number, okay? It's on all mobile devices, and it will give you if they have the exemption or not. Member service has reasonable accommodation of medical exemption for facial hair. RapNet will produce an electronic image stating exemption and or accommodation. You check RapNet to determine if they have that approval. And there it is, facial hair in the books. Let's turn the page and let's start talking about 304.21. When a member of the service encounters an individual observing, photographing, and or recording police activity. This has been eligible for the last 3 sergeant exams, and it has not been questioned. There is not a core and ILM on it, but there is 9 questions in the Elite HQ. Now, in summary, how we're going to go over this, first we're going to talk about what the public has a right to record. Then we'll talk about OGA, obstruction of governmental administration. We'll talk about how to handle evidence on a recording device. And lastly, we'll talk about recording in department facilities. So on page number 7, right up on top, let's go fill in number 6. Individuals have a right to lawfully observe and or record police activity. Yes, they are allowed to record us, and they are allowed to observe us. We can't prevent them, okay, as per federal, state, and even city law. Okay, but where are they allowed to record? Public places, private property in which the individual has legal right to present. Public places, private property where they are legally allowed to be, they are allowed to record us. Can we limit their recording where they record? We can, for 2 reasons. Can be limited for reasons such as the safety of the officers or other members of the public, or when a violation of law is committed by the individual who are observing or recording. Okay, yeah, you committing a crime when you're observing or recording, okay, yes, we're going to arrest you. Okay, yeah, you can't record, we're going to be arresting you. All right, be careful of the do nots. Okay, you're not going to intentionally prevent them from recording. You're not going to delete or seize your recording device. You're not going to seize their property. Okay, you're not going to copy their recording of police activity. All prohibited actions. And you're not going to lock somebody up. You're not going to arrest them for taking those photographs, for noting shield numbers, for criticizing the police, or refusing to leave the area, or even crude or vulgar speech. We live in the United States of America. We do have a freedom of speech. Okay, there it is, your right to record. They have the right to record, and we cannot arrest for it. Now, OGA, I love this part of the procedure. I like it because they give us examples of what OGA is. They say, yeah, this is OGA, lock them up for it if you have probable cause. Okay, but before I go over it, if you are going to make an OGA arrest, call your boss. Call your supervisor to the scene. And you may be the supervisor getting there, which they really don't tell you what to do, but you're going to call the boss to the scene with an OGA arrest. Okay, so let's look at what is OGA, obstruction of governmental administration. Bolded out note right below the first check. Interference with the performance of an official police function is required. That is OGA. Yeah, probably because they do that, we can lock them up for it. And I love it because they give us 2 examples of a good arrest for OGA. Actual, intentional, or attempting to use physical force, such as touching, physically interfering with an officer or a suspect. Here it is. By means of using a camera to obstruct the officer's view while the officer is performing official functions, such as effecting an arrest. So if they give you that scenario, you know that's OGA. And second, intruding into the physical space necessary to safely perform police operations and refuse to obey an order to move back or purposely engage in passive behavior that prevents an officer from taking enforcement action. Looky here, blocking a prisoner van. OGA, good to go. Okay, know those two examples, okay, and those are the two situations where you can make an arrest for OGA if you have probable cause. Now, let's turn to page 8 and let's talk a little bit about recording devices containing evidence. Just like OGA, you should call your supervisor to the scene. Okay, so everybody look up. Let me give you a little example that will help us walk through this situation. You're a police officer and you observe, okay, a perpetrator strike another officer with a bat. And you're standing back watching this, and right next to this, you see a person with their iPhone out recording the assault. You observe the assault, you observe this person recording the assault. You have probable cause that his camera, his phone, has evidence of that crime. This is what we'll do. When you have probable cause, you inform the observer that there is probable cause to believe the recording contains evidence of crime. Hey, you just recorded that assault, okay? That has evidence of the crime. You let him know. And you request consent to view it. Hey, can I view that? And if he says yes, you can say, okay, email it to me, okay? And if he says no, well, if he says no, we're gonna have to get a search warrant, okay, to seize his device, okay? But we tell him, hey, listen, if you delete that, okay, you could be charged with tampering with physical evidence, okay? That could be considered tampering with physical evidence. Don't delete it. We tell him that. Now, if we're concerned that he's going to delete it, even though we told him that he shouldn't, we obtain approval from his supervisor to seize the device, okay, if feasible, and we seize the device and we get the warrant. Am I going to view that device? Not until I get the warrant, okay? And we'll have to get a supervisor's permission if I want to view it before getting a warrant. Because if there is probable cause to believe that exigency exists and that the recording contains evidence of a crime, we contact the supervisor to determine whether to review the recording absent a warrant is permitted. Normally, we'll seize it, then we'll get a warrant, and then we view it, okay? But if there's an emergency where we think we need to look at it right away, we could view it and then get the warrant, but you need the supervisor's permission. Okay, there it is. And in both situations, OGA or a recording device with evidence on it, you have any questions, call the Legal Bureau. Okay, and lastly, I'm going to summarize this, everybody. Please look up here. Okay, we're going to walk you through this. Okay, I remember many years ago when they first put this in the guide, I was embarrassed because they had a YouTube video of Sergeant, and I even recognized him. He went to my class. And this wasn't in the guide at the time of this recording being made. Okay, he's telling this individual in the station house that he can't record. Okay, and the guy's like, F you, I can record anything I want. And the sergeant wasn't sure what to do. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, but the guide makes it very clear right now. Somebody's recording in a police facility. You're gonna say, sir, I'm sorry, but you can't record in a police facility. But I live in the United States of America. I'm in a public place. I'm allowed to record here. No, sir, you can't record here. You're gonna instruct him. And you don't wanna collar him, but you're gonna instruct him. And he says, I don't care what you say. I'm gonna continue to record. And they're like, okay, sir, then you have to leave. You can't stay. You're revoking his permission and authority to be in the station house. Are you allowed to do that? Yes, you are. Okay, so sir, if you don't stop recording, you have to leave. Okay, and when he refuses to leave, what do? We lock him up for what? Trespass. We're not locking him up because he's recording. We're locking him up because he's not allowed in the station house. We revoked his permission and authority. He wouldn't get out. We arrested him. That is how you handle it. Now, do you want, in the real world, do you really want to collar the person for that? No. You're going to escort him out and say, sir, I'm sorry, you got to leave. You can't stay in here, okay? And you're going to try to be nice as could be, but when push comes to shove, when he refuses to leave the station house, you're going to lock his ass up. And don't hesitate. Sometimes you got, and again, your body-worn cameras, everything's going to show exactly how nice you were to him, how you explain he can't record, how if he continues recording, he has to leave the station house. And when he refuses adamantly multiple times and you arrest him, you're good to go. Okay, there it is. Let's turn the page. Let's talk about the next procedure. 30420, personal, social, media, accounts, and policy. Holy shit, excuse my language, 30420. Okay, it was on the last exam. It's only been eligible for 2 exams and was on the last one. There's a core video. It is my newest core video I produced. Okay, I was running the captain's class, and I thought this is such an important procedure. Last round of exams, this was on the sergeant's exam, it was on the lieutenant's exam, it was on the captain's exam. It's relatively new, so I created a core video for it. You must know everything about personal social media accounts and policy. It's about 18 minutes long. There's no interactive learning module, but there is that core video. There's 11 questions in the Elite HQ. What does this procedure tell us? It tells us restrictions they put on you on your personal social media accounts. In other words, your Facebook account, your Instagram account, those social media accounts, they restrict you on what you could do with them. So, we start out with the opening statement. Member of service who violate this policy will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including dismissal. That's right. You do not comply with this, you could be fired because of it. Okay, and before I go over all these do nots, because we have a list of 10 do nots, they tell us later on in the procedure, members of service are urged not to disclose or allude to their status as a member of the NYPD because it could endanger you and possibly your family. You do not want to allude you being an NYPD member on your private social media account. And these are the guidelines they give you, okay, on that social media account. So now we have this list. Members of service do not. There are 10 do nots, and the first 6 we're going to go through all say the same thing. Do not post, transmit, share, and or disseminate. Okay, so we have 6 do nots. I'm not going to read that every time. But we are not going to post, transmit, share, and or disseminate department and or command identifiers as part of a privately held social media moniker. Example, at NYPD _ John Doe, at 53 precinct _ Jane Doe. Because if you do that, is that going to represent you as a member of the NYPD? Yes. Okay, and they don't want you to do that. You are not going to post, transmit, share, disseminate department affiliations of other individuals. You can't post on your social media account a picture of your patrol squad and say, hey, that's my patrol squad. You're posting pictures of them, identifying them as members of NYPD. Don't do it. Third, photographs of themselves or others in uniform. Holy shit, they do not want you to post photos of yourself in uniform and or displaying official identification, patches or badges, marked or unmarked vehicles, department facilities, buildings, and equipment without the authorization of the department. Don't post. Why? Because it's going to identify you as a member of the department, which they don't want you to do. But, holy shit, there's a but, can you post pictures of yourself when you get promoted? That's okay. And that's absolutely mind-boggling. In one sentence, they say, don't do it because it could endanger yourself, but you can for specifically department ceremonies, like your promotion. Go across the stage, shake your hand, smile. Okay, good feeling, you'll see. And when you do, you take that picture and you post it, and that's totally acceptable. Okay, but guess what? On patrol, the next day, no way. That's not acceptable. And again, it's just contradictory. Don't identify yourself, but when you get promoted, you can. Department ceremonies, you can. Okay, next, we talk about the 4th, prohibitions. Non-public items that were gained as a result of their position within the department. And they give us examples: arrest booking photos, criminal records, witness statements, crime scene photographs, and videos. I laugh at this because this was published in the guide, okay? And when Conor McGregor got arrested, okay, a couple hours later, his movement slip was on the internet. I was like, holy shit, somebody actually did that, which is really messed up, I think. Okay, you know, I mean, you violated his privacy. I'm surprised he could have went and find out who did that and sued them for damages. Yeah, not a good thing. Okay, yeah, you can't post things like that, things that you got for your position in the department. Okay, number 5, any content involving discourteous or disrespectful remarks due to the protective classes of age, ethnicity, race. Yeah, cannot be biased there. And any content advocating harassment or violence. Yeah, of course, we're police officers who can't advocate any harassment or violence. All right, now, those are the 6 do nots. Do not post, transmit, share, disseminate. And then we have 4, engage in social media contact. Okay, with individuals or organizations advocating oppression or prejudice. In other words, you cannot have social media contact with the KKK or Proud Boys. Okay? Yeah, it's prohibited. And no social media contact with a suspect, a witness, a crime victim, and an attorney involved in the case, okay, and the matter is ongoing. Don't do it. No contact. Social media contact with minors they interact with in the course of employment by the department. That cute little cadet you work with. No social media contact. And no social media contact with third parties whose content violates provisions procedure. No third parties that, okay, advocate KKK or Proud Boys. All right, please know your do nots. Okay, the 6 do nots: post, transmit, share, or disseminate, and the 4, social media contact with. Okay, and then on the bottom of the page, one point here: any activity that can be linked to member service is a reflection of the department as a whole. Okay, so what you post reflects to the department. Turn the page. You're always accountable. Now, I'm going to bring this to your attention, but we actually cover this in 3 separate procedures, everyone. Member service are reminded they are strictly accountable for their conduct at all times, inside or outside of New York City, whether on or off duty. Yeah, you're always accountable for your conduct. We talk about this again in prohibited conduct 30406. We talk about this again in 30413, attending law enforcement events. Pictures, this is what we spoke about when I started the procedure. Member service are urged not to disclose or allude to their status as a member of the department. And one of the latest updates is identifying information. A member service to engage in unauthorized disclosure of identifying information may be subject to disciplinary action. Now, please look up. What the hell is identifying information? Okay, that's not a simple answer. I Googled it. I kind of know what it is. Okay, just note this. Hey, I'm not allowed to disclose identifying information. Okay, that's the rule, because it doesn't exactly explain what identifying information. But I know releasing identified information, okay, unauthorized disclosure of it is prohibited. All right, there it is. Let's turn the page. Emails, 30418. Okay, this has been eligible for 3 exams. Okay, there has not been a question on it on a prior exam, and there is 11 questions on this procedure in the Elite HQ. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over the guidelines regarding email policy, all the do's and do nots. That's all what it is. Lots of do's and do nots. Okay, so let's look at, on the top of the page, the second check mark: use department email system for department-related purposes only. That's why I cringe every time somebody sets up a learning management system account with a department email. It's supposed to be used for department-related purposes only. Use of other email systems like Gmail and Yahoo to conduct department business is prohibited. Everything's got to go through the department email, okay, if it's work-related. Okay, and it's funny because when I was on the job, the department email was such a pain in the ass to get to. I used to use my private email all the time. Okay, well, they put this procedure out, and they put a stop to that. Why did they put a stop to that? Why do they want everything to go to department email? Because it's Rosario material, which you'll see, meaning that they have to be able to access it. They keep it for a really long time because everything that's sent, okay, could be Rosario material. All right, and be careful. We got 3 do nots here. Be careful, 3 email do nots. 1, use department email to access or transmit materials, messages that display or disparage a person or a group. Okay, yeah, don't do that. Don't send anything like that. Do not use department email system to distribute communications that are offensive, disruptive, or unprofessional. And do not use department email system to conduct personal business. Another reason not to use your email for this course, your department email. All right, know your 3 do nots, and now we got to know 4 situations where you, the member of service, must notify the integrity control officer / designated supervisor. Okay, you will tell the ICO if you have unauthorized use of that email or receipt improper content. Somebody sends you a dirty joke. Well, that's improper content. Hey, ICO, designated supervisor, guess what? Guess what I received in an email? And 3rd, do not notify the ICO of any password compromise. My passwords have been compromised, ICO. And notify the ICO of breach of security. Security's been breached, ICO. Okay, know your 4 do nots. Okay, and then we got one quick fill-in. A member of service must check their department email. When during their tour? At the beginning, everyone. Fill number 7, beginning of their scheduled tour of duty. And as necessary for the remainder of the scheduled tour. Okay, now, a couple of the remaining points, just to hit a few points, so just look up. Okay, remember, when it's in an email, you have no right to privacy, and it's Rosario material. Okay, also, you should be very sensitive if you compose a department email. Okay, and meaning you should put as much time as a department email as you would any written correspondence. Okay, and you must keep your password secure because if it's compromised, you're gonna have to tell the ICO. Okay, and if you turn to page 12, okay, you have to have a signature block on your email, and you also have to have your confidential notice on your email. We're not gonna email confidential information. You do not use shortened URLs. Okay, they are unauthorized. Okay, and then please drop down to the bottom of page 12, and we should know who you have to notify if you have questions regarding the security of department email accounts and report of security incidents like phishing, suspicious attachments. You're going to direct it to ITB, Information Technology Bureau, Information Security Office. And don't mix it up with when you need assistance regarding an email login. Then you contact the ITB service desk. So you got phishing, suspicious attachments, Information Security Office. You need assistance with email login, service desk. All right, there it is, emails. You know, I'm kind of surprised they haven't gone to this on a prior exam. It's been around for 3 exams already. Okay, everyone has the department email. Okay, you think that they would go to it because you use it. Okay. But that's why I covered it as thoroughly as I did, because I think it is important. Okay, let's turn to page 13. Let's talk about 30406, prohibited conduct. 3 prior sergeant's exams. Okay, there are 19 questions in Elite HQ. Okay, first we're going to talk about alcohol rules. You better know them, always important. Then we'll talk about prohibitions, prohibited conduct without exception. And then we'll talk about prohibitions, prohibited conduct with exceptions. And then we'll finish off with a few additional guidelines. So on page number 13, let's talk about alcohol, everyone. Know your alcohol rules. 2017 exam, you got a point right here. You are prohibited from consuming any amount of an intoxicant while on duty, whether in uniform or civilian clothes. Okay, so please look up here. You're having lunch. Okay, you are on duty having lunch with the police commissioner, and you want to have a glass of wine, and you're in uniform. Can the police commissioner allow you to have the glass of wine in uniform? No. Nobody can give you permission to consume intoxicants when you're in the bag. Okay, but, okay, if you are in plain clothes, okay, you're in civilian clothes, okay, and you want to consume intoxicants, okay, can you? You can with somebody's permission. So let's read it now. Okay, members assigned to duty, fill in number 8, in civilian clothes may be granted permission by the bureau chief or counterpart concerned based upon the nature of the member's assignment. If your bureau chief says it's okay and you're in civilian clothes and you're on duty, you are allowed to consume intoxicants. But that's a very high level position, isn't it? Bureau chief. Who is the bureau chief? We're going to talk about this again later. The bureau chief for a precinct is the chief of patrol. The bureau chief for housing, PSA, is the chief of housing. The bureau chief for a transit district is the chief of transit. You got to get one of them's permission to consume alcohol, okay, when you're in civilian clothes, if you're on duty. But nobody can give permission when you're on duty in the bag, consume intoxicants. All right, and the second alcohol rule is bringing or permitting an intoxicant to be brought into a department building facility, boat, or booth, or vehicle. 2007 got you a point to know that you cannot do that. Of course, except in the performance of police duty. In other words, you lock somebody up for DWI, you have a bottle of alcohol, you're going to take that alcohol, put it in the department vehicle, bring it back to the station house, and bring it to the station house and voucher it as evidence. That's acceptable because it's in performance of duty. Okay, but bringing alcohol, you know, buying a 6-pack of alcohol, okay, on your meal period and put it in the RMP and bring it back to the station house so you could drink it after work, no good. And I always remember it was like Christmas time, and I had a friend in headquarters, and I bought him a bottle of wine for Christmas, and I remember walking through security going, oh shit, I got a bottle of wine. Shouldn't really be doing that, right? Yeah. Okay, it's prohibited. All right, now, the next list, prohibitions without exception. These are absolute, okay? So when you're reviewing these, be aware there is no exception to these rules. It's prohibited from making an unauthorized radio transmission. Prohibited, absolutely no exception. Okay, or using department letterhead, personnel, equipment, resources, or supplies for non-department purposes or non-city purpose. Prohibited, no exceptions. And we have all these prohibitions with no exceptions. Okay, let's turn to page 14. Now, okay, on page 14, we have a list of prohibitions with exceptions. Okay, let me give you an example. Drop down to the 4th and 5th bullet. Recommending use of a particular business, professional or commercial service to anyone, and steering a business, professional or commercial purpose to a prospective client requiring such services. If I said to you, those two conditions are absolutely prohibited, that would be a false statement, because I'm allowed to do that when I'm transacting my personal affairs. See, so it's not an absolute prohibition. There's an exception. And be careful of this list of prohibitions with exceptions. All right, and drop down to the bottom third of the page about you are prohibited from divulging or discussing official department business except as authorized. And I'm bringing this to your attention because now they added a statement regarding PG 21277, release of information to the media. Members are reminded that unauthorized communication with the news media without conferral with the Office of Deputy Commissioner of Public Information is prohibited. Yeah, you can't be talking to the media without the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, that office's permission, okay, to talk to them. Okay, so you got an exception. You got the general rule, and then you have the exception. Okay, there's a lot of things here on this list. Just read through them. Note the exceptions. All right, let's turn to page 15, and now we got some miscellaneous prohibited acts to be careful about. The first one, outside wire, reporting for duty and or end a tour via outside wire on a regular basis. Every once in a while, can you go end a tour from an outside wire? Yes, you can. Okay, you know, I was a commanding officer for many years, okay, and I would not make it a habit, but every once in a while, I'll go out on patrol, I'd go out to a specific department facility to go observe something, to look at something, and I'd go end a tour from there. And I was allowed to do that as long as I didn't do it regularly. Okay, and a member of service will not report for duty and or end a tour from their precinct of residence. If I lived in a 105, okay, I was not supposed to go to the 105 and go end a tour from the 105. But I can if who gave me permission? Approve my commanding officer. My commanding officer says you can, well then I could do that. I could go end a tour from the 105, my precinct of residence. But generally, you're not supposed to. Now, the next point is very important. Familiar personal relationships and disciplinary investigatory process. Sometimes you're going to be assigned to do something and you say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should recuse myself in this scenario. So everybody look up. You are a sergeant and you were assigned to a patrol squad. And the integrity control officer assigns you, say, here's a communication I want to investigate. Okay, Officer Yanisic, he handled domestic dispute, and the allegation is he should have made an arrest at that incident and he didn't. I want you to investigate it. And you, the sergeant, okay, you say, oh, Officer Yanisic, oh, that's my ex-boyfriend. Okay, or maybe Officer Yanisic, oh, he's my neighbor. Well, in that situation, do you think you should be investigating that disciplinary investigation regarding a familiar or personal relationship? Because that's what they are. And the answer is probably not. And you're going to have to tell your COXO, hey, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be investigating this. Okay, maybe the ICU should give it to another sergeant, okay, that don't have those relationships. So now here it is. Let's go back to the page 15. Okay, participating in the department disciplinary process or investigatory process when there is a familial or personal relationship. Okay, here it is. Familial, spouse, child, present or past romantic relationship. or personal, friend, neighbor, business, financial, close colleague. Okay, you will notify, fill number 9, your CO or XO immediately if a familiar or personal relationship is discovered, which may require recusal from participation in a particular case. I should not be investigating this incident. Okay, tell you, CO, XO. And if you're not sure, call the legal bureau. Okay, and let's drop down to the bottom page for romantic relationships. Okay, can 2 cops date in a command? Yeah. Can a sergeant date a cop? Oh, no. Okay, absolutely not. Well, actually they can, but what's going to happen to one of them? Someone's getting transferred. So, having a romantic relationship with a subordinate member, here is the word to be careful about, who is routinely under the direct supervision of supervisory member. Okay, romantic relationships between supervisors and subordinates who the supervisor routinely supervises will result in transfer of one of those involved parties. Okay, yeah, you could date a supervisor, but somebody's getting transferred, and guess who it usually is? The supervisor, the higher ranking supervisor, that is. Okay, and it's just funny because I left a command as the CO, and I went to John Jay, got a master's degree, and I was given 8 months off. And when I was going to school, they made my XO the CO, and he started dating one of the civilians in the command. Okay, and my commissioner at the time, he said to him nicely, took him to the side, listen, you can't have a relationship with this woman in your command. And he says, but I love her. What happened the next day? He was transferred. He lost his CO spot because, okay, you want to have the relationship, you can't be the commanding officer of a command. Okay, we have that relationship. Okay, yeah, the supervisor is going to get transferred. Someone's got to get transferred. Just be aware, romantic relationships between a supervisor and a subordinate are no good. All right, turn the page. One last thing, they also talk about other prohibited relationships. Specifically, don't have a relationship with confidential informants, witnesses, and victims, youth, young adults assigned to various programs like explorers and cadets, youths and young adults who attend schools where the member is temporarily, permanently assigned. No type of relationship. Everything has to be kept on the up and up regarding official duties of the department. All right, let's turn the page. Compliance with orders 30403. Believe it or not, 3 prior exams right here. Right? And there are 10 questions in Elite HQ. Okay, and we're going to talk about 3 things in this procedure: driver's licenses, we'll talk a little bit about lockers, and talk about stickers. Okay, first thing, holy shit, your license got suspended, revoked, or not renewed. Who you tell? Hey, commanding officer, guess what? My license was suspended. It was revoked. It wasn't renewed. Oh, shit. Tell the CO. Okay, and your locker, what kind of lock should you have on it? Combination lock, but please note, without identifying serial numbers. Can you believe in 2011, you got a point on a sergeant's exam for knowing that it should not have identifying serial numbers on that locker. Okay, that lock in that locker. Now, real quick, I think there's some commands in the Bronx that are new. Okay, who works in a command that has been renovated, the locker room renovation? Raise your hand. It's got to be like the 4-0, it's got to have a new locker room. See, if you have a locker room renovation, that's when you don't have to have these stickers that I'm about to go over, because they're going to have vinyl images of the stickers posted at the locker room entrance and exit. Okay, but if your command has not gone under a locker room renovation, you will have to have how many stickers on the front of your locker? 2. That's 2, bro. And on the inside of your locker, how many you have to have? 3. Okay, so let's look at the front of the locker first for fill number 10 and fill number 11. We have 2 stickers that go on the front of the locker, and it's what I refer to as the P stickers. And it's fill number 10 is proper tactics saves lives. P for proper tactics saves lives. And the other sticker on the front of that locker is police don't move. Police don't move. The 2 P stickers. Proper tactics saves lives, and police don't move. And then we have on the inside, we have 3 different stickers. Please note, they're not going to be on the back of the locker on the inside because you won't be able to see it. It's got to be in a conspicuous manner inside that locker. It'll be 1, the gun safety sticker, 2, the health and wellness sticker, and 3, the seatbelt sticker. Goes on the inside of your locker. And if you don't have a sticker, you're missing a sticker, who do you have to ask it from? Who do you get it from? Hey, Lieutenant Ops Coordinator. We know in the real world it's called the admin lieutenant, but I never call him that. I call him, hey, Ops Coordinator, guess what? I need a sticker. Okay, great. Let's turn the page. We'll talk a little bit about fitness for duty. 30404, 2 prior sergeant's exams, 3 questions in Elite HQ. There's a few points I want to talk about fitness for duty. We went over the alcohol rules already, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but it says you will be fit for duty at all times, except when you're on sick report, and you're never going to consume intoxicants to the extent the member becomes unfit for duty. And the third check mark, we have a special charge for this third prohibition. All members of service are required to remain fit for duty as specified above, and are reminded that they are absolute responsibility to be fit for duty while in possession of their firearms. So important. You got your gun on you, you better not be unfit for duty, because if you are found unfit for duty and you are armed, they got a special charge for you. So look in the middle of the page, okay, the second arrow under misuse of firearms while unfit for duty. Any misconduct involving members who are found to be unfit for duty due to excessive consumption of intoxicant from alcohol while armed with a firearm will result in inclusion of the charge, unfit for duty while armed. Yeah, they take that shit serious. Do not be unfit for duty while armed. Okay, and the other thing, I remember when this was added to the guide, they went to this in 2007, DWI, unfit, and SPI, my boxed out note. Any UMOS who causes SPI, serious physical injury, to another person while operating a motor vehicle and is determined to be unfit for duty due to the consumption of alcohol will be terminated from the department, absent exigent circumstance. They're going to fire you. You DWI, you cause an SPI, you're getting fired, unless there's absent exceptional circumstances. Now, everyone look up. I'll tell you the story. I was a cop in the 8-8. Okay, I work in midnights. Okay, another cop in Brooklyn South, okay, they did the midnight, and then they went out drinking after the midnight. Not a good thing. He was drinking until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, driving home. Unfortunately, he's DWI, strikes and kills a female crossing the street and her unborn baby. Okay, yeah, then they added this in and making sure you realize you're getting fired, okay, when you cause SPI to somebody and you're DWI. All right, let's turn the page. Let's start talking about racial profiling and bias-based profiling. 304-17. Never been questioned on a prior sergeant's exam. There's 5 questions in the Elite HQ, and we start right at the top. The department prohibits the use of racial or bias-based profiling, period. It's against, okay, federal, state, and local law. Okay, understand, what is racial profiling? Race, color, ethnicity, or national origin may not be used as a motivating factor for initiating a police enforcement action, and then drop down for bias-based profile. It's pretty much the same thing, okay, but it's because of race, national origin, color, creed, age, immigration, or citizenship status, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or housing status as the determining factor. The motivating factor or the determining factor for taking police action cannot be based on these race or these bias incidents. Okay, so now everybody look up. So let me give you an example. You can't take enforcement action. You get a call, okay, man robbed at the corner of Putnam and Grand by a male white about 50 years old. Well, if I stopped him and take enforcement action on that, conduct a level 3 encounter, a Terry stop, well, guess what? That's based on male white about 50. Well, that would be considered, okay, racial profiling. I need more than that, and this procedure tells you that. It says, when an officer's decision to initiate enforcement action against the person is motivated even in part by the person's actual or perceived race, color, ethnicity, or national origin, the enforcement action violates department policy unless the officer's decision is based on a specific and reliable suspect description that includes not just race, age, and gender, but other identifying characteristics or information. So in that scenario, what do you need? Well, you need, okay, a male just committed a robbery at the corner of Putnam and Grand. He was wearing a red shirt, beige pants, gray sneakers, he's bald, he's got glasses, and he's about 50 years old. Can I take enforcement action now? Yes, because it's more than just the person's race, age, and gender. Okay, and if you have more than that, you can take enforcement action. But if it's just race, age, and gender, that's not acceptable. Okay, that's racial profiling. And we do not racially profile, and we don't bias-based profile. Okay, let's turn the page. Let's talk about 304.13. Attendance of parades, funerals, memorial services, and other department-oriented law enforcement events. Okay, this has not been questioned on any sergeant exams, but it's been on a hell of a lot of lieutenant's exams, 5 out of 7, which is really a lot. There are 11 questions in Elite HQ, and what this procedure tells us is our required conduct at these type of events, how we have to report corruption at these type of events, the actual conduct at these events, and again, it ends off with a review of alcohol. Okay, now, we already spoke about this on the personal social media accounts and policy. A member of service is subject to department rules and laws, whether on or off duty, inside and out of New York City, outside New York City. Yeah, you have to follow the department rules, whether you're inside or outside New York City or on or off duty, as we said earlier. And also, you have to report corruption? Absolutely. I don't care if you're on or off duty. I don't care if you're inside and outside duty. You must report corruption misconduct. Remember Executive Order number 16? Remember, we're going to talk about in the future 20721. Always got to report it. Okay, now, first I'm going to go over the restriction, and then we're going to talk about why it was written, okay? Because I actually went to the event, okay, that caused this procedure to be written. On-duty members, in or out of uniform, will return to their commands as soon as the event is over. Until they return to their assigned command, a member of service will not take meal or be granted lost time. I'm an on-duty member. I'm going to a funeral, okay? I'm sent to the funeral as an on-duty member. I don't care if I'm in uniform or out of uniform. I'm on duty and I get there. After it's over, I got to go all the way back to the command. I can't be given lost time. I got to go all the way back to the command. I can't take meal, okay? Now, why was that written? Why do they make you drive back to the command and go into tour? Why do they make you drive back to the command, don't take meal? Because back in the early 90s, I believe it was 1992, I was a cop in the 8A precinct, okay, and Officer Cannon, okay, he was a Brooklyn South cop, got killed in a shootout in a bicycle shop, okay, in Brooklyn South. He lived in Smithtown, okay, and the funeral was in Smithtown, okay, and we sent, one sergeant, 8 cops, we went to this funeral, okay, and it was in Smithtown, and Smithtown is a little isolated, and there's only a few roads in and out, and, traffic was crazy, okay, the funeral's over, it's around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, okay, and everyone's like, a lot of guys were like, hey, I live right here, I live 5 minutes away, I don't want to drive all the way back to the command, I'll take lost time, I'll call the command to get lost time. And that's exactly what they did. They called the command and say, hey, listen, I live 5 minutes from here. It's 2 o'clock. Let me take the hour and 40 minutes lost time. And desk officer said, sure, why not? You're not going to come back and do anything. I can't use you for anything. So they gave him lost time. Okay, and back then, it wasn't against the rules. Okay, so a lot of guys were in uniform, okay, and they're going into Smithtown, and then they go out drinking, okay, in the bag. And then Smithtown is known for a couple bars that they have. And that night, it was an absolute chaos in Smithtown, New York. There were shots fired, there was disputes, okay, it was off-duty incidents out the gazoo, and the department said, this shit can't happen again. Okay, no more taking lost time from these events. You go back to command. Now, if you want to get changed and go back out to Smithtown in plain clothes off-duty, go ahead. But we're not giving you lost time. That's why it was written. Don't give them lost time from these events. Don't let them take meal until they get back. All right, now, next rule. Can an off-duty UMS wear a uniform outside New York City? Okay, off-duty outside the city, and can a UMS carry a firearm outside New York State when attending one of these events? Well, the answer is yes, but you need permission of either the police, the first deputy commissioner, or the chief of department, okay? And I have to read this next statement. I don't like it, okay, but I'll decipher it for you. It says, careful. Under no circumstances will any member wear their uniform off-duty or attend parties, dinners, fundraising events in uniform without the permission of who? The CO. So what they're trying to say is, if you want to wear the bag and attend the event in New York City, your CO can give you permission. Okay, but as soon as the event is over, you're gonna get changed and go in civilian clothes. Okay, they must then change into civilian clothes or attire as soon as the event is over. All right, let's turn the page and let's talk a little bit about 304.14, guidelines for the acceptance of gifts and other compensation by members of the service. 1 prior sergeant's exam. There are 4 questions in the lead HQ, and please look up here. Somebody offers you a gift due to your good service that you do. You become aware that you're going to be offered a gift for the good service you do. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's cash. I don't care if it's a personal gift like a wristwatch. I don't care if it's a pen and pencil set. I don't care if it's a plaque. Hey, commanding officer, well, he offered me a gift. You tell your commanding officer. So let's go to the page now. Let's fill this in. Middle of the page, 21. Whenever a member of service is offered a gift or becomes aware a gift will be offered in appreciation for police service, the member concerned, doesn't matter what the gift is, will notify fill number 13, commanding officer prior to accepting the gift. The commanding officer prior to accepting the gift. Hey, commanding officer, he offered me a gift or he's going to offer me a gift. Commanding officer. Okay, now, they also tell us what are the things that will be allowed to be accepted and not allowed to be accepted. But be aware, I don't care what I'm going to get. I still tell my commanding officer, he'll make the decision. They say a member of service may be offered a gift, award, or other thing of value by a private citizen institution in appreciation for police service. It's not unethical or illegal for a member of service to accept gifts that are commonly offered as a token of appreciation, a plaque, a pen and pencil set, etc. Those are okay. However, cash rewards, bad. Personal gifts, bad. Such as wristwatches, they're strictly forbidden. But I don't care what they're going to offer me. Commanding officer, prior to me accepting it, I got to tell you, they offered me a gift. Okay, not difficult, easy peasy. Now, if I was studying for the captain's exam, I have a lot more to say. But we're done with sergeants. All right, let's turn the page. Order of rank. 304.01. Has not been on any prior sergeant exam. I have one very difficult question here, Lead HQ. Order of rank. Okay, I want to read this with you because I cannot tell you how many people email me and they say they don't understand, okay, this question. It says, who's in charge at a police incident and will direct and coordinate police operations pending the arrival of a supervisor? First, it's the senior UMOS in RMP assigned to the incident. If Sector Adam is assigned to the robbery, Sector Adam will be in charge, the senior member in Sector Adam, until the supervisor gets there. And of course, when the supervisor gets there, the boss is in charge. Okay, or the foot patrol on the scene. Sector Adam's assigned, but the foot post gets there. Sector Adam didn't get there yet. Who's in charge? The foot post. Okay, now, if Sector Adam's assigned and the foot post is on the scene, but Sector Adam didn't get there, they got to a vehicle collision on the way, so they're not getting there. And Sector Boy shows up. Sector Boy's got 2 senior cops. They got both 20 years on the job. And you got the foot post on the scene. Who's in charge? The foot post on the scene. I don't give a shit he's got a year on the job. He's in charge. And don't mix up real world, book world, okay? What are you going to tell that rookie when you get there in Sector Boy? Step back, or go sit in your car for a while, right? You're going to be in charge, but not on exam day. The foot patrol on the scene is in charge. So then it says, if RMP is assigned to an incident is delayed, and no UMOS assigned to foot patrol, okay, but let's just say the foot patrol wasn't there. The senior UMOS first on the scene will take charge pending the arrival of a supervisor or assigned RMP. Sector Boy gets there, okay, they'll be in charge until the supervisor or the assigned RMP gets there. Again, it's a hard question, okay, in my Elite HQ, but sometimes on exam day, you're going to get those very challenging questions. Those are the ones who put you at the top of the list, okay, compared to doing very well. Okay, let's turn the page. Talk about courtesies. Oh, it's a big one. 304.02. 5 exams right here, including the last exam. Yes, I have a core video on it, one of my newer ones. It's about 16 minutes long. There's also an interactive learning module, and there are 14 questions in the Elite HQ. This procedure tells us 2 things: when to salute, and also when we have to fly that flag at half-staff. All right? So let's start talking about courtesies first, about saluting. And you got a question right on the 2006 and 2013 Sergeant exam if you know PUDs. You salute the PC and deputy commissioners in civilian clothes. Question: the PC and deputy commissioners, are they uniformed members of the service? No, they're in civilian clothes because they're civilians. You got to salute them. And you, for the U.S. flag as it passes, salute the desk when entering the command. Whoever does that, nobody. But yes, you're supposed to salute the desk when entering the command. And yes, for the supervisor in uniform, supervisor officer should also return the salute promptly. If the national anthem is played, you salute the flag. If there is no flag, you salute the band. Okay, and you salute the large assemblies. Look up real quick. You're at a parade, and a supervisor walks by you. You don't have to salute him. But now if he talks to you or you talk to the supervisor, you're supposed to tend to that salute. Okay, unless it interferes with police duty. Okay, and let's look at the last 2 statements on page 23. Remove your hat and stand at attention in the office of PC, deputy commissioner, okay, and members above the rank of lieutenant. Above the rank of lieutenant, captain or above. So, when the ops coordinator calls you into his office, are you going to remove your hat and stand at attention? No. Well, when the captain calls you in, you will. And when the captain walks into the room, you got to order attention? No. When the inspector, the duty inspector usually, or any inspector, okay, will you have to yell attention, order attention? Yes, you will. Please note, it is deputy inspector and above. Above the rank of captain. All right, turn the page. All right, here it is, everyone. All right, let's look up, let's talk about this for a second. Last exam gave you a question about flying the flag at half-staff. Last exam, they gave you a question on wearing the morning band. Okay, now I'm going to tell you that, yes, you should know these 2 charts. Okay, and I'm telling you, the only way you're going to truly know this chart is if you write them out. Highly recommend it, okay, that you write out both charts, when to fly the flag at half-staff and when you're allowed to wear the morning band. They're very different, but it's very easy to mix the 2 up. Okay, well, I'm going to go through it now and hopefully bring things to your attention to make sure you understand it, but you'll never know it unless you write it out. I do highly recommend you write it out many times. And on both of these, morning bands and courtesies, I have a core video on both of them. Okay, I have an interactive learning module. Make sure you know the chart. It's on the video, it's on the ILM. So here it is. You place the flag at half-staff as indicated below. 4 sergeant exams right here for knowing this, including the last one. What I want to start with is line of duty, because rank doesn't matter. For line of duty, that's about flying that flag at half-staff. And we have 2 situations. A cop gets killed. He's a cop from the 8A precinct. Cop in the 8A precinct gets killed. We have the rules about flying the flag at half-staff at the 8A. And then we have the rules of flying the flag at half-staff at every other command but the 8-8. 4-0, 116, okay, 4-9. Every command but the 8-8. So the first rule is the 8-8 precinct. Where he's assigned, he's killed in the line of duty. Fly that flag at half-staff to the department building where the members are assigned from time of death until, let's fill in number 14, from time of death to 10 days after the funeral. 10 days after the funeral. He worked in the 8-8. Fly that flag, half-staff, in the 8-8, from time of death till 10 days after the funeral. But what about every other command? Okay? Any other command will fly that flag at half-mast, half-staff, same thing, on all department buildings from time of death until the day of the funeral. Compare and contrast. Line of duty. I don't care what rank you are. That's when we fly the flag for line of duty deaths. And then let's go back now and talk about non-line of duty. A police officer. Now, rank matters. A sergeant. A lieutenant is driving home from work. He's signed out. gets into a department vehicle collision, and dies. Okay, when are you allowed to fly that flag at half-staff? First, department building where he's assigned on the day of the funeral. That's it. Wherever he worked, on the day of the funeral, you fly the flag at half-staff. Police officers, sergeants, and lieutenants. But when you get promoted to captain, they extend the courtesy, okay, to a longer amount of time flying that flag at half-staff. Department building, we're assigned from time of death to sunset day of the funeral. Quite a lot longer, okay, than just a police officer, sergeant, and a lieutenant. Police officer, sergeant, lieutenant, just the day of the funeral. But here for a captain, from time of death until sunset, the day of the funeral. And then deputy inspectors. It's pretty much the same time, but we add in headquarters. Department building, within their command, from time of death until sunset, day of the funeral, and police headquarters on the day of the funeral. Now, is there a difference between the captain and the deputy inspector here, other than headquarters? Well, yeah, it kind of says department building within their command. See, if that inspector is assigned to, let's just say, Bronx South, okay, well, you know what? Every command in Bronx South will fly that flag at half-staff from time of death until sunset, the day of the funeral, because that inspector. And of course, in headquarters, they'll fly at half-staff on the day of the funeral. And then everyone else, that includes chiefs and detectives, are directed by the PC or the chief of department. Okay, know that. Again, the only way to know this is I could yell it at you, I could jump around, I could get on my podium. Just write it out. The more you write it out, the better. And you'll know it, and hopefully on exam day, and you get a question on it, you're gonna take your scrap paper, you're gonna write out your chart, and then you're gonna answer the question. Same thing for morning bands. Okay, let's turn the page. Let's look at 30405, performance on duty. And we'll talk a little bit about leaving post because it's so contradictory to how we do things in the real world. Okay, we'll talk about carrying your helmet here. So on the top of page 25, when leaving post, always notify the telephone switchboard operator, and if possible, make a digital activity log entry before leaving post. And when you return to post, always notify the telephone switchboard operator, and always make a digital activity log entry upon return. In the real world, are you ever telling the telephone switchboard operator? Of course not. Okay, but on exam day, will you do it when you leave post? And when you get back to post, you will. Okay, and let's drop down to wearing your helmet. Now, they've made these helmets politically correct. Okay, when I was a cop, it was a riot helmet. Well, now it's not a riot helmet. It's a dual purpose, personal protection, scooter helmet. Okay, and we have guidelines for wearing it, and we have guidelines for carrying it. Okay, please look up. Let me summarize this a little bit. You're on a footpost by yourself, and all of a sudden, bricks are starting flying off the rooftops, and you have your helmet. Can you put your helmet on? Absolutely. You're unsupervised, you feel you're in danger, you can wear your helmet. But a supervised situation like on the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and you're at the Thanksgiving Day Parade, 42nd Street and 7th Avenue, okay, and you're standing on the corner with all the other cops, and you're a little nervous. There's so many people around. You think that, you know what, I'm a little concerned for my safety. Can I put my helmet on? No. Okay, you got to ask your supervisor because you're in a supervised situation. Hey, Sergeant, can I put my helmet on? You're like, we're at the Thanksgiving Day Parade, dude. We're on 42nd Street and 7th Avenue. There's no rowdy people here. They're little kids here. No, you can't put your helmet on. But now if the bricks do start flying, then you can put your helmet on. Okay, supervised compared to non-supervised. Non-supervised, your own discretion. Supervised, get the supervisor's permission, except it's an emergency. Carrying it, get carried on your duty belt or sight and sound of the scene, or if you're in a vehicle, it could be in the trunk of your vehicle. All right, turn to page 26. I do want to bring up field communications. Okay, use department radio for field communications, except under limited circumstances. You know why they added this in? Okay, because all of a sudden cell phones, everyone had one. We have these department cell phones. What the hell do you need the radio for? Let me just call the sergeant and tell him what's going on. No, they want you to use the radio because when you put it over the radio, it's all recorded. It's all documented. So generally, they want you to use, okay, department radio for field communications, except under limited circumstances. When you have detailed information about an incident, personal information, you don't want to put personal information over the radio, then you could call. Okay, but generally use your department radio. Okay, and appearances. Okay, rank, you want us below the rank of captain, you're normally assigned to the to a third platoon, and you're going to have to go to court on the day tour. Okay, what time should your tour start for court? 8 o'clock if you're not RDO. And what time should your tour start if you get RDO court? 9 o'clock. That really sucks, right? I'll never forget, I was a cop in the 8-8. Okay, I had court the next day. I was doing 4 to 12. And they're like, well, you got to be back here at 9 o'clock was my RDO. So I said to him, I said, listen, do you think I could start at 7 o'clock with the normal second platoon? Okay, my sergeant says to me, well, technically no, but just ask the desk officer in the morning if you could start. Tell him you'll eat the hour or two at the end if you get stuck. Okay, because if you get stuck after your normal end of tour, okay, you're really supposed to be working until almost 5:30, 6 o'clock. Okay, and the sergeant gave me a really hard time the next day. Okay, because I said, listen, let me start at 7. I didn't want to hit traffic. Can you imagine driving into work at 8 o'clock in the morning? Forget it. So I started early. She yelled at me, but she let me do it. Again, use common sense. If a person's willing to eat the hours at the end, let them start, at 7 o'clock instead of 9. But RDO, you're supposed to start at 9. Not RDO, you're supposed to start at 8 if you're not normally assigned to the second platoon. All right, let's turn the page. 304.11, compliance with New York City Right to Know Act. This has been eligible for 3 exams, and it has not been questioned. There are 5 questions in the LEAD HQ, and we should know everything about when we have to give a right to know business card, how we identify ourselves, how many we carry, what we do if we run out, and who we don't give right to know business cards to. So when the procedure begins here, it says when a UMS interacts with a member of the public and or concludes above law enforcement activities. So if you engage in a level 2 encounter, if you engage in a level 3 encounter, you search a person or property, you have a roadblocks, but not a planned security check or a street closure, and you have a home search, those are considered law enforcement activities for this procedure. And generally, you're going to offer that right to know business card. I say generally because if you stop somebody at a level 3 encounter and lock their ass up, well, I don't have to offer him a right to know business card because he has arrest paperwork. He knows who I am. Or if I give them a summons, well, I don't have to offer him a right to know business card. Why? I gave him a summons. My name's on the summons. But generally, you conduct a law enforcement activity that I just went over, you're supposed to offer that right to know business card. So let's start from the beginning now. Uniform member of service, courteously and clearly state your rank, name, and shield number. You want to identify yourself when you take law enforcement activity. And we're going to say this 3 times today. Please read it along with me. It's the first arrow. UMOS are reminded that when performing official duties in uniform, in the bag, their shield number or rank designation must be visible at all times. We say that in 3 separate procedures. We say it here in 304.11. We talk about this in 305.12, shield ID and nameplates that we're talking about later on, the second half of the class. And we also talk about it in 305.14, morning bands. Do not cover your shield number or your rank designation because the refusal to make the shield number or rank designation visible to a requesting individual may subject them to legal action. That's right, subject to legal action. If somebody asks you, I can't see your shield number or your rank designation, please make it visible, and you tell them no, subject to legal action. We carry how many right to know business cards or right to know business cards general? An appropriate amount. And generally, you should explain that law enforcement activity. Explain why you stopped him at a level 2 or a level 3. Explain yourself, unless it'll impair criminal investigation or exigent circumstances are present. We offer them the right to know business card, except if we're going to give them a summons or an arrest or there are exigent circumstances. And on that right to know business card, we should either enter the command phone number or the department cell phone number. It's really your choice. Now please look up. Let me summarize this last part. I engage in a level 2 encounter. I'm supposed to offer him this right to know business card, but I ran out. So then I should offer him a right to know business card general. And you go, oh shit, I ran out of those too. I don't have any right to know business card or right to know business card general. What should you do? Allow him to write it down, okay? Give him ample time to write down your information. That's how you handle it, okay? So if you ever get called down and say you didn't give him a right to know business card, okay, well, if it's on body one camera, you're kind of screwed, okay? But if not, you're like, yeah, I ran out. So I told him to write my information down. I gave him ample time. Okay, that's the rule you're supposed to follow. Give him the regular one, then give him the general. Don't have any, give him time to write it down. All right, and if you turn to page 28, discretionary issuance. UMS may offer a business card as appropriate at their discretion. If a member of the public asks you for one, you should give them one. And if you're an undercover or confidential informant situation, okay, you're part of that team, you don't have to give them a right to know business card. Okay, know your rules regarding right to know business cards. And let's turn the page. Let's talk about 304.12 financial restrictions. This is on 3 prior sergeant's exams, including the last sergeant's exam. We have 8 questions in the lead HQ, okay, and a few prohibited acts I need to go through, because this is everything you want to do, you want to know about financial restrictions. Okay, this is where they went to on the last exam, the 3rd check mark. You are not allowed to purchase city-owned real property through negotiated sale. That's the general rule, but there is one exception. You can purchase city-owned residential buildings of 6 units or less. That is okay. But generally, you're not allowed to purchase city-owned real property through negotiated sale. Okay, and let's talk about rental purposes. Okay, you're prohibited from purchasing real estate for rental purposes within your precinct of assignment. I work in the 8-8. I want to buy a building to rent in the 8-8. I'm not allowed to do it. But you may purchase real estate for rental purposes in other than the precinct of assignment. I work in the 8-8. I can't purchase property in the 8-8 to rent it in the 8-8, but I can purchase property in the 7-9 to rent it in the 7-9. And you may purchase real estate for non-rental purposes in your precinct of assignment. So what it's saying is, I live in the 8-8. I want to buy a home and live in it in the 8-8. Am I allowed to? I am. But when I do that, who do I have to tell? Commanding officer, guess what? I now live in the command I work. And what's going to happen to me? I'm going to be transferred because I cannot work in the command, okay, I live in. Okay, and let's drop down to the bottom of page 29, okay, and let's talk about business and financial transactions with other members of the service. May a member of the service enter into a business or financial transaction with another member of the service? Yes, but not if the member of service is your fill-in number 15, supervisor or subordinate, where the supervisor has the power to direct the subordinate's work or has the power to affect the terms and conditions of the subordinate's employment. Okay, please look up. Let me give you an example. You're a cop and you want to buy a Dunkin' Donuts with another cop in your command. Are you allowed to do that? Yes, you are. He's not your boss. You're not his boss. Buy the Dunkin' Donuts together. Enter into that business of financial transaction. But can I buy that Dunkin' Donuts, me, the police officer, buy the Dunkin' Donuts with a sergeant? No, I can't. Can the sergeant buy it with a lieutenant? No, we can't. Not if you're a supervisor or subordinate. Can't do it. But if you're not a supervisor subordinate, yes, you may engage in business and financial transactions. All right, turn to page 30. The candy bar financial restriction. On the top of page 30, sale to subordinates and supervisors. Can a supervisor sell or solicit charitable contribution or for profit to a subordinate? And the answer is absolutely no. There's no exception to that. No, no, no. And then let me give you an example. Let's just say somebody is selling $25 chocolate bars to raise money for their school. Okay, and the police officer, okay, is in a position where the sergeant wants him to buy the chocolate bar. Are you allowed, as a sergeant, to sell the chocolate bar to the cop? No, you may not. Sergeant cannot sell, okay, that chocolate bar to the cop. Why? Hey, officer, don't you want to buy my $25 chocolate bar? I'm doing your evaluation next week. Okay, and that's the answer, and that's why it's no, he may not. But let's change it up a little bit. Can a subordinate sell a solicited charitable contribution or for a profit to a supervisor? So can the cop sell the chocolate bar to the sergeant that's worth $25? And the answer is yes, because there is no position of pressure that the cop can put on the sergeant. The sergeant could put pressure on the cop, okay, but the cop can't put pressure on the sergeant. So yes, the cop could sell if it's $25 or less to his sergeant. Okay, can a member of service sell a solicited charitable contribution to another member of service of the same rank? Yeah, cops could sell chocolate bars for $25 or less to each other, no problem at all. Okay, know the chocolate bar rules. Sergeant to PO, no way. PO to sergeant, yes. PO to PO, yes. Sergeant to sergeant, yes. Now we got to talk about business dealings with the city. This has been our true prior sergeant exams. Okay, no department employee may have a position in a firm or ownership interest that the employee knows or should know is engaged in business dealings with the department. And I made up an example. This is not in the guide. I made it up. You're not allowed to work for or own a business that sells transport chains to the department. Yeah, I can't work for or own a business that sells transport chains to the department. Why? Because they have business dealings with this department. And no department employee shall have a position in a firm or ownership interest which such employee knows is engaged in business dealings with the city unless such position is in a firm whose shares are publicly traded. So I have two examples here. Examples where you may not. You can't work for a mom and pop Inc., which sells garbage cans to the Department of Sanitation. Yeah, it's a small company, okay, and you cannot do business dealing with the city. Okay, but example of when you may work for Microsoft, which sells software to the Department of Sanitation. Yes, they have business dealings with the city, but they are publicly traded. And if they're publicly traded, you can work for them. Okay, let's turn the page. 304.16, personal information via department intranet. Okay. This has not been questioned on any prior sergeant exam. There is 3 questions in the lead HQ. Members of the service are supposed to keep central personnel resource systems up to date. Okay, so if one of these personal information items change, you're supposed to update the computer system. And I have my little acronym GREENS plus, gender, residence, address, your emergency notification, ethnicity, your name, your social condition, or other relevant information changes. You're supposed to update the system. I always laugh. How will your ethnicity change? But yes, you're supposed to keep the department up to date. Okay, you will access that central personnel resource system 3 times. If it changes every year, okay, anytime you want to review it to make sure it's accurate, you select Mode Profile in the computer system, you update the information, and if your name, social condition, and date of birth changes, you must upload documentation of that change. You're reminded to adhere to the department's residency requirements, which we're going to talk about in 1 second. You can access your inbox to make sure the status of the change, and you'll get an email when it's approved or disapproved. Okay, so here's the residency requirements. You are not allowed to work, okay, in your precinct in which you are assigned. You're assigned to the resident precinct. No, you're not allowed. And assigned to the PSA that patrols the development within their resident precinct. Let me give you an example. PSA 4 covers the 7-9 precinct. You are not allowed to live in the 7-9 precinct. Okay, you cannot work, okay, where you live. Okay, let's turn the page. 304.15, Department Confidentiality Policy. There's one thing I want to bring to your attention, an example they give us in this procedure. Okay, this has never been questioned on any prior sergeant exam. I just think that it's an example that would be very easy to write a question on exam day. It is the logged on member's responsibility to prevent other persons from recording or transcribing information for the purpose of unauthorized use. Example, taking a cell phone video of body-worn camera footage. That is a no-no, and that requires you notify IAB and file Patrol Guide Procedure 20721. Yeah, you cannot take your cell phone and record body cam footage. That is not allowed. That is considered misconduct, and you got to call up IAB. Okay, 304.25, last procedure, and then we're going to take our break. This has not been questioned on any prior sergeant's exams. This is our residency requirements. You are allowed to live in the city and NS War. You're allowed to live in Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, Orange, Rockland, Putnam. You're not allowed to live anywhere else. Okay, and that uniform member service, who is he going to provide the physical home and address to? Who is going to provide landline phone number and or the cell phone at a residence? And who he may provide an email address to. Fill number 18. Who is that? The ops coordinator. The ops coordinator. And you will not provide post office box, okay? And you will not provide beeper and pagers. They're not permitted. Okay, and lastly, if the residence of a member service subsequently changes and results in contradiction of any of the above residency requirements, who will the UMS immediately notify? Their commanding officer. Hey, I just bought a residence to live in where I work. Tell your CO, and you will be transferred. Okay, everybody, the time is now about 10:15. We're going to take a 5-minute break, okay, and we're going to pick it up right here with the second part of our lesson, and that's 305, uniforms and equipment. Everybody at home, you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email me or email my son Connor, Mike at EliteStrategicTraining.com or Connor at EliteStrategicTraining.com or call us on our cell phone, 516-761-9101. You have any questions or problems, call us, email us. Okay, listen, I hope everybody had a good break. Okay, we got about 45 minutes left of content. Okay, hopefully 45 minutes. Let's finish strong. Let's get through this. Everyone turn to the second part of today's lesson. Turn to the cover sheet for AG 305 series, uniforms and equipment. Okay, what this cover sheet indicates is all the procedures we covered in today's lesson. There's a total of 17 procedures in today's lesson. And we got to expect to see about 1.6 questions on this series. Again, anywhere from 1 to 3 questions on uniforms and equipment. So let's go to our first procedure, 305.01, General Uniform Regulations. Now, this has been on 2 prior sergeant's exams, but it was on 2 prior sergeant's exams when we had the rules regarding our duty jacket. But guess what? The rules regarding duty jacket, wearing it, is no longer in this procedure. And it also went to it on a prior exam when they had their short sleeve shirt rules, okay, in this procedure. Both of those parts of this procedure was moved, and we're going to cover the duty jacket and short sleeve rules in a little while. Okay, there's only really, one thing I want to bring to your attention on this page number 1. On the bottom of the page about uniform purchases. All right, so understand you will purchase and all items of uniform which are sewn or attached to the uniform from both the equipment section or other authorized supplier. That's important to bring it to your attention because everything sewn or attached to your uniform has to come from the equipment section or other authorized supplier. And later on, in 305.04, optional uniform items, those optional uniform items must be purchased from equipment section or other authorized supplier. Okay, you'll see that. And they even have ways to tell if your shirt or your duty trousers or equipment belt was purchased from the authorized supplier or the equipment section, which you'll see shortly. Okay, let's turn the page. 305.03, uniforms. It has not been on any prior sergeant's exam, but I think this is an important procedure for a sergeant's exam because it's going to tell you the uniform of a police officer. It's going to tell you how the uniform changes for a detective and a sergeant. And remember, I hope everyone watched my introductory videos, the golden rule. Do you guys know what the golden rule means? It means you want to study anyone who you could be or anyone who you could supervise. You could be a sergeant, and then you got to be anyone a sergeant supervises, and that is police officers. Okay, and we have to know the police officer's uniform because you supervise them, and you got to know, of course, the sergeant's uniform because that's who you'll be on exam day. All right, so we start out with the police officer's uniform, and we got the 8-point cap. Navy blue, black strap, chrome cap device bearing the shield number. And of course, you know when you become a sergeant, your cap device becomes gold or gilt, and we don't have a shield number, and you'll see the strap also changes. But right now, police officer, chrome cap device bearing shield number. and the duty jacket. Okay, we got 3 different types of duty jackets, but I want to make sure we fill in number 1 and 2 about when you're allowed. Oh no, that's definitely an inappropriate word. When you must, when it is mandatory to wear your duty jacket. Okay, let's fill in number 1 and number 2 on page number 2. Mandatory between November 1st and March 31st. I repeat, it is mandatory between November 1st and March 31st. Mandatory. You have to wear your duty jacket between those days. But it's optional during other months. So from April 1st to October 31st, it's optional, but it's mandatory from November 1st to March 31st. But can somebody allow you to remove that duty jacket from November 1st and March 31st in certain situations? Yes. And that's the lieutenant. If the temperature, please be careful of the word expected to rise, be careful of the word above 65 degrees Fahrenheit from November 1st through March 31st, the platoon commander shall authorize the removal. Generally, November 1st to March 31st, you gotta wear it. But from November 1st to March 31st, if that platoon commander, expects the temperature to rise above 65 degrees, he can approve the removal. We're going to talk about this again later on. I have a summary of all the dates you have to know with optional equipment. We know that your nameplate becomes, yellow metal when you become a supervisor, of course, and the shirt. I told you that they want you to buy it from authorized dealer or the equipment section, and here this is how they'll tell it is the appropriate shirt. Authorized shirts will have a label affixed on the inside of the shirt between the 4th and the 5th buttons. Approved NYPD with the certification number. All right, and let's be careful about that friggin' tie. The tie! Do you have to wear a tie when you're wearing a long sleeve shirt? And the general rule is absolutely. Now, the combo about wearing the long sleeve shirt and the turtleneck we'll talk about in a little while. But other than that, you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, you got the tie on. It's funny because I was going to different commands, hanging out flyers, and I've seen a lot of guys, with a long sleeve shirt without a tie on. That is not acceptable. On exam day, you're wearing that long sleeve shirt, you will have a tie on. And look at the duty trousers. As a cop, your duty trousers have to have a braid. Fill number 3, everyone. How wide should that braid be? A half inch, a half inch, a half inch. And when you get promoted, does that braid increase? Yes, you're gonna have to go to a tailor. I had my mom do it 37 years ago, and she put the braid on. 1.25 inch braid when you become a supervisor, which you'll see again in a few minutes. And looky here, even the duty trousers have that certification. Black right pocket or inside of the waistband, you got that certification number, making sure it was purchased from that equipment section authorized dealer. Turn the page. Let's look at socks. For many years, it was like, hey, I could wear white socks as long as you don't see them. Well, that's not true now. You have to wear black socks. I repeat, you have to wear black socks, and they can't be really short socks. Must be at least 2 inches above the top of the shoe. I repeat, at least 2 inches above the top of the shoe. Now, I don't see anything unusual about the dress uniform for a police officer. The only thing I would specifically note is shoes. They got to be high gloss lace type Oxford shoes. High gloss for that dress uniform for a police officer. Now, what changes when you become a detective, if you become a detective? And yes, as a sergeant, you supervise detectives. There's only one thing that changes, and that's the cap. Everything else in the detective's uniform is exactly the same as a police officer's uniform. The Guild gold cap device without the shield number. That's it. The only thing that changes, it goes from chrome, Guild cap device with the shield number to a gold cap device without the shield number. Only change from police officer to detective. And let's turn to page number 4 and talk about the sergeant, This is your uniform when you get promoted, everyone. You better know your uniform. The cap changes, the pants change, and of course, we have to add on the insignia rank. So what changes with the cap? Well, then we get that gold Guild cap device without the shield number, And we also have a Guild of Gold chin strap. So the chin strap changes, the Gold of Guild cap device without a shield number changes. Okay, no your changes to the cap. And the trousers, we already spoke about this. Let's fill it in. How wide should be the braid on that sergeant's trouser? 1 1/4 inch, please, fill in number 4. 1 1/4 inch, please, fill in number 4. Okay, and we know the police officer's trousers have a 1/2 inch braid. Okay, so the cap changes, the pants change, and now we have to add on the insignia of rank. We got to add on your chevrons, your 3-pointed chevrons. And it's going to be worn on the sleeve of all outermost garments, but we do have 2 exceptions. It's not going on the rain gear. Now, please look up. How do you remember that? How do we remember that? We don't have to put our chevrons on the rain gear. Is that if you did, well, it wouldn't be waterproof no more. Okay, and we don't put it on a nylon windbreaker jacket. I don't really discuss the nylon windbreaker jacket anymore because in the precinct, nobody's in civilian clothes, okay, but because you have to be in civilian clothes to wear that nylon windbreaker jacket. Specialty units, okay, wear it, not on regular patrol, okay? And you will have, instead of having the chevrons on the nylon windbreaker jacket, you will have Gold Guild chevrons on the collar of that nylon windbreaker jacket. Now, I'm going to summarize training attire, everybody. Please look up. Training attire. Okay, I remember when they put this in, and I know why they did so. See, the department was upset that people were going to, let's just say, training, and they'd have very bad things written, okay, on their clothing. Like somebody would wear a shirt that said, "Fuck this," excuse my language. Okay, is that appropriate to wear at work? No. So what did they do? They put guidelines in place. Clothing that contains offensive or inappropriate designs, stamps, or messages are not permissible. So that's why they provided a specific description of business attire, business casual attire, plainclothes, tactical training attire. Okay, and also, please note on page 4 here, my boxed out note, they don't want anybody getting burnt by hot brass at the range during your annual firearms qualification. So they give you restrictions on what you could wear so nobody goes line of duty for being burnt by hot brass. Okay, let's turn the page. Required equipment, 30508. 5, that's right, 5 prior sergeant's exam questions. Okay, there is a core video on it. It's about 29 minutes long, and there are 9 questions in an Elite HQ on this procedure, and there are 4 parts of it. First, we're going to talk about what equipment you have to have on your person. Second, we'll talk about equipment on your duty belt. And third, we'll talk about equipment that must be readily available. And lastly, talk about civilian clothes equipment. Okay, I like the opening statement regarding required equipment. Firearms, body-worn cameras, and less than lethal devices, batons, conductive electrical weapons will only be carried when the member service is properly trained by the department. So if you're not trained with an expandable baton, you can't carry it. You got to carry a regular baton. If you're not trained with a Glock, you can't carry the Glock. If you're trained with a Smith & Wesson, you got to carry the Smith & Wesson. Got to be properly trained. Now, equipment on the person. How many belts do you need? 2 belts, 1 to hold up your pants and 1 to hold your equipment. Okay, and yeah, they even have, okay, a spec number on those belts. Now, smartphone, got to be charged, of course. Timepiece, got to be set. Got to wear your protective vest. We'll talk more about the vests in a little while. You also have to have, once again, an appropriate amount of right-to-know business cards, right-to-know business cards general. You got to have your identification on your person. And here, one of the newest updates to this procedure, department issued New York City Transit, NYPD, Omni Police Pass. Used to be called, okay, the Metro card, the police Metro card. Now it is the One Metro New York Police Pass. Omni Police Pass. Got to carry it on your person when you're on patrol in uniform. Got to carry your body-worn camera when issued, okay? And there it is. Everything on your person. Know it. Core video goes through this, every single item. Now we have equipment on the belt, and it's got to be in a specific order that will be covered later on. Let's talk about the magazines. How many magazines do you need? 3 magazines. Remember that magazine holder's got to be in a vertical, please highlight vertical position. And we got one magazine that's in the firearm. We got two magazines that is in that magazine pouch. And each magazine should hold a maximum number of rounds. Okay, that means your service pistol should have 15 cartridges in each magazine. Okay, and the one magazine that is in the firearm, we also have one in the chamber. The CEW, please note, highlight, it will be on your support side, opposite your firearm. Your support side. And I don't know if anyone ever watched that video. Okay, a female officer was rolling around with this perp in a vehicle, okay, and she thought she had her CEW in her hand, and it was her firearm. Okay, that's why, okay, we have to have our CEW on our support side, and cross-drawing is prohibited. Okay, because they want you to be aware you should use your CEW and not think it's your firearm. Okay, your radio's got to be in a signed case. And again, we're talking about everything on the equipment belt. Turn to page 6. OC pepper spray, support side, just like the CEW, opposite your firearm. Then the flashlight, then the baton, but please be careful with the baton. Okay, you should carry that expandable baton if you're qualified. But if you're not qualified, you got to carry your regular baton. Got to have your firearm in the appropriate holster. Got to have handcuff holder and a handcuff key with the handcuffs, of course. But please note the handcuff case. It's got to be fully enclosed. In other words, they don't want to be able to see your handcuffs. It's in its case, and it's fully enclosed in its case. Okay, and you can even carry a second pair of handcuffs, which is optional. Now, tourniquet, the one thing on your equipment belt that's truly optional, and that is going to be that tourniquet. Now, please note, I, in this lesson, only have that right-handed setup, okay? And if it's a left-handed, it's just opposite. Remember, the support side is opposite the firearm. The strong side is your firearm side. Know the items. Know what goes on the strong side, the firearm side, and know what's going on the support side, okay, which is opposite your firearm. Because they're going to be checking this when you go to your annual pistol qualification. Okay, turn the page. The third part is procedure. We talked about equipment on the person. We talked about equipment on the belt. Now we're going to talk about equipment that has to be readily available. Regulation traffic whistle and whistle belt holder. When I was on patrol, you had to have that on your belt. No longer. It's just got to be readily available. Reflective safety vest, got to be readily available. Your helmet's got to be readily available. Okay, the number of summonses, sufficient amount of summonses got to be readily available if you're below the rank of captain and you're assigned to enforcement duties. Okay, department issued opioid antagonist, Noxalone. If you trained and you're issued it, got to carry it. Straight baton with a baton holder. Okay, but remember, okay, if you're not qualified with the expandable baton, you have to carry that on your equipment belt. And the department issued trauma kit if trained. Tourniquet, okay, maybe one on the belt, as we went over as an optional item. Now, I'm not going to go through civilian clothes because very, very few people on patrol, okay, is in civilian clothes. I think the only last units is transit, has some civilian clothes units, okay, on patrol. Okay, here it is. Read through it. Is it fair game on exam day? It is. Okay, do I believe you're less likely to see that nowadays? I do. But anything is fair game, of course. Prohibited items. MOS are reminded that unauthorized patches, emblems, and insignia, and or other adornments are prohibited, okay, when you're in the bag. And not only that, members serving performing civilian clothes are not to wear clothing containing inappropriate designs, stamps, or messages. Okay, you know, somebody had a Punisher sticker on his vest. Okay, somebody got offended. And of course, yes, that is not acceptable. And it's you, the patrol supervisor, you, the unit supervisor, are going to make sure that nobody is displaying these unauthorized items. Okay, patrol supervisors, unit supervisors will ensure compliance with these prohibitions during roll call, inspection, and at other times during a tour. That's right, not just during roll call, but other times during a tour, nobody has these unauthorized items. Required equipment, everyone, that's a big one, be careful. Let's turn the page. Talk a little about 30507, Firearms General Regulations. 1 prior sergeant's exam, 6 questions in an elite HQ on this procedure. Okay, and we know that now on patrol, everybody on patrol, everyone in the department has a service pistol. Nobody has a service revolver any longer. Okay, And when I first got on job, I had a service revolver, okay? And I got promoted in 1994. We were the first group that got 9mm. They got my Sig Sauer, okay? But right now, they're all service pistols, but there are still, okay, pistol and revolvers, your off-duty weapons, okay? You are supposed to safeguard your firearms at all times, okay? And there's sometimes you don't have to carry your firearm. The general rule is, okay, you have to be armed while in New York City, unless you do yourself a favor and not be armed. I want to warn you, though. I'm going to go through a favor, and I'm going to tell you there's one of these situations that carrying a firearm is not optional. It is prohibited. Okay, does anyone know what letter in a favor is prohibited? The F. That's right. So let's go through it, and you'll see that. Okay, because you don't have to be armed. If A, alcohol will likely be consumed. You go into a bar, you don't have to be armed in New York City. Second, the F, this is the one where you are not allowed to carry a firearm. Family or Supreme Court matrimonial part. Okay, yeah, you are not allowed to be armed if you are personally involved. Okay, other than official business. If you had official business, of course you could be armed. But if you're not on official business in family court or Supreme Court matrimonial part, you are not allowed to be armed. The F is when it's prohibited. But all the other ones, okay, is discretionary. The A, activity or nature whereby it would be advisable not to carry the firearm. Okay, like shoveling snow. Yeah, it'd be advisable not to carry it. V, for vacation. You're on vacation, don't have to carry it. Off-duty employment, don't have to carry it. Risk of loss or theft, participation in sporting activity like going to the gym or attendance at a beach or a pool. You don't have to carry it. You can, but you don't have to. Okay. Now, next thing I want you to be careful about is on the bottom page 8 about holsters. I would make sure you know your holster rules, everyone. Holsters must affix tightly to the belt or body if the holster is shoulder ankle holster and incorporate a reliable retention device other than friction alone. That kind of means you have to have like a snap on it. It can't just have absolutely no restriction device. And holster must cover the trigger guard, muzzle, and front sight of the firearm. Holsters carried inside of the waistband must be in reinforced mount to assist in one-handed reholstering. Holsters described as one-size-fits-all, clip-on, or belly bands are prohibited. And do not carry firearms in briefcases, handbags, or similar devices. Okay, with the one, and so that's it. Never in a bag. Okay, we don't put it in a lunchbox. We don't put it in a tote. Okay, no type of bag. Don't store or leave your firearm in an unattended motor vehicle except as authorized. Okay, if anyone left their firearm, okay, in their vehicle, that's a problem. Of course, we don't do that. Except as authorized, that's probably they're referring to a highway, the solo patrol, they have the firearm secured in the trunk. Okay, yeah, they can leave that vehicle unattended. Okay, turn to page 9. Just about modifications. Are you allowed to modify your firearm, you personally? No, only firearms and tactics section armorers can. Okay, we're not allowed to modify our firearms. Okay, and look at the middle of page 9, force record. Okay, record all revolvers and pistols on your force record. Okay, please note, it's not all firearms going on your force record. Rifles and shotguns don't go on your force record. Pistols and revolvers go on your force record. Okay, and foreign country, generally, we do not bring our firearms to foreign countries unless it's on official business or personally participating in an event requiring the use of a firearm like hunting or competitive shooting. Okay, let's turn the page. This is a big one, everyone. 30504, optional uniform items. It's been on 4 prior sergeant's exams. There is not a core video, but I went out of my way. This is one of my most recent interactive learning modules. Okay, I added this in because they redid optional uniform items and they changed a lot of the dates. Okay, that's why we got to be super sensitive regarding this procedure. This is going to go over all the items that you may wear sometimes, okay, and some of the specifications of those items. Okay, and once again, right on the top of the page, must be ordered through the equipment section, authorized dealer, as I already said. And we begin with 511 tactical pants. All ranks of armed patrol can wear tactical pants. Remember, First Arrow, NYPD patrol tactical pants are no longer authorized. Oh yes, they have to be called 511 tactical pants. They're authorized, specifically strike pants, males and females. Ripstop, no good. Okay, strike pants, good. NYPD patrol tactical pants, bad. Please look up a second. Does anyone know a mistake in the guide when we talk about neighborhood safety team uniforms? Do they still mention NYPD patrol tactical pants? Yes, it's a mistake. It should say 511 tactical pants. Those are the tactical pants we can wear on patrol. Okay, and a lot of people on patrol, of course, wear this, the uniform, shirt style, outer vest carrier. Please know all ranks can wear it. Okay, and it can be worn as an outermost garment. Okay, and it's either blue or white depending upon your uniform shirt. All right, drop down to black boots. Remember, black boots are for patrol only. You're not gonna be black boots on the desk. You're not gonna be black boots in the TS. Patrol only. All right, let's turn a page. Now we're getting to it. This is where we have to be very sensitive because we have specific dates. Certain uniform items may be worn. First, the summer 8-point cap. All ranks, everybody, because it says all members of the service can wear the summer 8-point cap. Okay, optional between May 1st and September 30th. All UMOS. Okay, please look up a second. The summer cap. Now understand, a police officer's summer cap, we're gonna have all the attachments to that summer cap that a police officer requires. And when you get promoted to sergeant, you're gonna have the summer cap, but you're gonna have that Guild Gold cap device without the shield number. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have all the attachments to your sergeant's cap, but it's a summer cap. All it is a lightweight cap that is allowed to be worn between May 1st and September 30th. But please be aware, are you ever allowed to wear the summer cap at other times? Never. Now, please don't worry about these dates because we're gonna review this in a little chart that I created for you. Okay, let's look at that short sleeve shirt now. May 1st to September 3rd, it's optional. May 1st comes along, all the way to September 30th, it's optional. But what about those really hot days from October 1st to April 30th? Can somebody allow us to wear a short sleeve shirt? Yeah. The platoon commander shall authorize the option of wearing a short sleeve shirt whenever the temperature of a specific door is expected to rise above 65 degrees Fahrenheit. And that short sleeve shirt should have that certification number between the 4th and 5th buttons. Okay, so here, May 1st to September 3rd, optional. Other times, it can be worn with the platoon commander's discretion. Okay, now, duty jackets. We went over this in the prior procedure, 30503. Okay, I'm covering it again in this procedure because it's related to some things that we're gonna talk about. Duty jacket, mandatory, November 1st to March 31st. But if I wanna remove it, from November 1st to March 31st, the platoon commander can authorize if he expects it to be above 65 degrees for that tour. Okay, if it's going to be expected to be above 65 degrees from November 1st to March 31st, the platoon commander shall authorize the removal. Okay, next we got to talk about the turtleneck shirt. Navy blue, they're all navy blue. I don't care what rank you are. Okay, it's for all ranks, but be careful. Are we ever going to use it as an outermost garment? No, it's normally worn under that duty jacket. Okay, turtleneck shirt, long sleeve shirt combo. When you get promoted to lieutenant, are you ever allowed to wear the combo? Never. Okay, but as a sergeant, can you wear the combo? Yes, you can. As a police officer, you can wear a combo. Yes, detectives can wear a combo. Yes, that's the long sleeve shirt and turtleneck. But let's make sure we know when we can wear it. The combination may be worn as an outermost garment when the duty jacket is not mandatory. Okay, we know the duty jacket is mandatory from November 1st to March 31st, so the combo may be worn from April 1st to October 31st. Know your dates, but don't worry, we're gonna go over the dates again in a minute, and it's gonna really summarize it well. Now, the winter hat. Please, you gotta be careful. Winter hat, winter knit hat. Two different hats, two different requirements. Winter hat, winter knit hat. Be careful. So here it is, the winter hat. Black, soft vinyl with black mouton trimming for use by all UMOS with the temperatures expected to fall below 32 degrees. Yeah, it's that funny looking winter hat. Okay, yeah, you could wear that anytime the temperature is expected to fall below 32 degrees. Just the temperature. Does it say anything about the duty jacket? No. But now let's talk about the winter knit hat. See, that has the duty jacket requirement plus the temperature. It is only to be worn with the duty jacket when the temperature is expected to fall below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. See, you need the duty jacket and the temperature. Winter hat, just the temperature. Winter knit hat, temperature and duty jacket. All right, turn the page. Cold weather hood, the balaclava. Okay, yes, we need the temperature and the duty jacket again. Okay, it is just like the winter knit hat. It is only to be worn with the duty jacket when the temperature is expected to fall below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and then earmuffs, just the temperature. Black headband type when the temperature is expected to fall below 32 degrees. Okay, now, holy shit, we went through a lot of different dates there. How do you know the dates? How you not mix them up? Please turn to page 13. Here it is. Look at my little chart here. I created this, and I think it's extremely useful. I would memorize this chart, and it's not a very long chart, difficult chart. So let's look at summer first. May 1st to September 30th, the summer hat is optional, period. And when we talk about the short sleeve shirt from May 1st to September 30th, it is optional, that short sleeve shirt, just like the summer hat. But what about from October 1st to April 30th? Well, that short sleeve shirt can be worn when the platoon commander, approves it if it's expected to reach above 65 degrees. Now let's look at the winter. From November 1st to March 31st, the duty jacket is mandatory. You gotta be worn. And that means the combo, that long sleeve shirt and that turtleneck, that combo, if you're a police officer, detective, or a sergeant, can be worn from April 1st to October 31st. And if you want to take off the duty jacket when it's mandatory, from November 1st to March 31st, the platoon commander can approve it if he expects the temperature to reach above 65 degrees. Know that little chart, and then you will know the summer hat. You'll know the short sleeve shirt. You know the duty jacket, and you know the combo. Okay, we're not done yet. You guys are turning the page. Don't do that. Please, I want you to write down under my chart. Write this down. Winter hat, earmuffs, temperature only. Please write down winter hat, earmuffs, temperature only. And then below that, underneath winter hat, earmuffs, temperature only, write cold weather hood, winter hat, winter knit hat, cold weather hood, winter knit hat, duty jacket, and temperature. Did I say it wrong? Okay. See how I sometimes misspeak? So everybody, I'm going to get here on my podium. We're going to make sure that everyone gets this and I don't say it wrong. Winter hat, earmuffs, temperature only. Cold weather hood, winter knit hat, duty jacket, and temperature. Once again, winter hat, earmuffs, temperature only. Cold weather hood, winter knit hat, duty jacket, and temperature. Okay, there it is. Those are your dates, ops, uniform items. I created the module specially for this because it is really easy to write a question when we have specific dates. Okay, please turn to page number 14. 305-14, morning bands. 3 prior sergeant's exams. There is a core video on it, 19 minutes long, interactive learning module, 14 questions on Elite HQ. All right, now, we spoke about flying the flag at half staff. You know the chart. You know you have to write it down. You know you have to memorize it. Now we're going to talk about morning bands. Same exact thing. We have 5 situations you must know. The only way to know this is to write it down. Okay, start now. How wide should a morning band be? 1/2 inch wide. Remember, it covers the seal of the city, not your shield number or rank designation. Okay, remember, if you refuse to make your shield number rank designation visible, you could be subject to legal action. It's written in 3 separate procedures. Okay, so now everybody look up. 5 scenarios. First scenario is when you have a line of duty. We have two situations for line of duty. Second scenario is non-line of duty death. And we have two situations for non-line of duty death about wearing our mourning band. Third is when somebody's retired. Fourth, Police Memorial Day. And fifth, National Peace Officers Memorial Day. Okay, so let's start out for the active member of service, line of duty death. A cop in the 88 dies in the line of duty. Cops in the 88 could wear the mourning band. Okay, from time of death until 2,400 hours on the 10th day after, fill number 6. 10th day after their what? Death. 10 days after their death. And then every other command other than the 88, okay, can wear that mourning band from time of death until 2,400 hours on the day of the funeral. Okay, do not mix the two up here. Okay, the member where he worked, he died in the line of duty. Okay, we know that we're going to wear that mourning band from time of death until 2,400 hours on the 10th day after their death. And then every other command from time of death until 2,400 hours on the day of the funeral. And then when you have an active member of service, not line of duty, a member is driving home. He's end of tour. He gets into a vehicle collision and dies. His command can wear the mourning band from 0001 to 2,400 hours on the day of the funeral. Okay, and every other command, only while attending funeral services. Much, much less. And then we have retired while attending funeral services. Easy peasy. But now we have Police Memorial Day. Is there a specific day of the year that Police Memorial Day is? No. Okay, it is going to be worn while attending headquarters ceremony uniform. It's mandatory. And it's optional between 001 to 2,400 hours. The police commissioner picks the day. And if you go into the ceremony at 1 pp, that is going to require you to wear it if you're in uniform. And it's optional for everybody that day. And National Peace Officers Memorial Day, is that a specific day? It is, May 15th. And it is optional for all uniform member service on that day from 0001 to 2,400 hours. Okay, know your mourning bands. Okay, again, I have an interactive learning module on it. I have a core video on it. Watch it, know it, write it out. The only way to remember is to write it out. Okay, and my boxed out note, this is the newest edition. What about civilians who don't have a uniform, don't have a shield? Then they have a mourning pin, okay? And it's going to be on the left lapel. And it's going to be worn the same time as a mourning band may be worn. All right, let's turn to page. Page 15, protective vests, 305-15. 3 prior sergeant exams, including the last sergeant exam, knowing everything about a protective vest. There is a core video on it, about 20 minutes long, an interactive learning module, and 14 questions in the Elite HQ. All right, so let's look on page 15 and let's make sure we know our rules about wearing a vest. You will wear your protective vest outside the department facility when performing duty in uniform and performing enforcement duty in civilian clothes. That's the general rule. But somebody could exempt you from wearing a protective vest if you're in uniform, and somebody could exempt you from wearing your protective vest if you're in civilian clothes performing enforcement duty. So let's go over the uniform rule first. You unless performing duty in uniform outside a department facility may be exempted from wearing a protective vest by their respective bureau chief or deputy commissioner only. So, okay, if you are in the bag and you are outside the department facility, your bureau chief can exempt you. Bureau chief, very high level person. Precinct, chief of patrol. Transit, chief of transit. Housing, chief of housing. They could exempt you from wearing your vest when you're in the bag. And performing enforcement duty in civilian clothes. You unless performing enforcement duty in civilian clothes outside the department facility may be exempt from wearing the protective vest by the members. Fill number 8, everyone. Immediate supervisor. Very low here if you're in civilian clothes performing enforcement duty. If in the opinion of the supervisor, the wearing of protective vest would interfere with or be inappropriate for the member's specific duty or assignment. Okay, let's jump to page 17, everyone. Let's talk a little bit about 305-12, shields, nameplates, and identification cards. 2 prior sergeant's exams, 6 questions in Elite HQ. just go over some basics. Carry your shield and an ID card when you're in uniform and civilian clothes, and present both when necessary to establish identification. Yeah, general rule, carry both. Okay, and if you're in civilian clothes and you're at the scene of an emergency, okay, how do you identify yourself? With your shield. And if you're in civilian clothes in your department facility, how do you identify yourself? With your identification card. Okay, don't mix the two up. And removing property, please look up. Many years ago, a member of the press comes in and asks the desk officer for a radio. He thought he was a cop asking for a radio, okay? And he gave him the radio, okay? And they're like, whoa, he didn't know. He made a mistake. But, okay, they say very now, if you are borrowing property from a command, temporarily borrowing property from a command, you're supposed to present your shield and ID card, okay, when doing so. And same thing about withdrawing evidence from the property clerk. Got to present your shield and ID card. All right, let's turn to page 18, 30509, handgun acquisition and disposition. This has been on 2 prior SARS exams, 6 questions in the Elite HQ. Okay, just a few points to bring to your attention. When you're buying a firearm, you got to buy it through a New York State licensed firearm dealer. But if you're buying it from a member of your immediate family, you don't have to do that. That's a spouse, domestic partner, child, or stepchild. You don't have to do that. But you still have to prepare the paperwork. And that paperwork is extremely important. It's called the acquisition or disposition of firearm by police officers. Report to New York State Police. Why is the acquisition so important when you purchase, okay, or sell a firearm? Because if you don't prepare it, it's a Class A misdemeanor. You're committing a crime if you don't prepare that report, okay, to the state police. So this procedure walks you through, okay, you purchasing it, giving it to the desk officer making a command log entry. He sends you and the paperwork down to the Firearms and Tactics section, and you got to do that within how many days? 3 business days, okay? And if you don't do that, it's the A misdemeanor, okay, because you have to prepare that form and submit it. All right, please turn to page number 20. Let's talk about 30513. Emblems, insignia, and breast bar. The one thing I want to cover here is service stripes and hash marks. Okay, you better know when you have to wear them. You got 5 years of service, you can wear that hash mark, that service stripe. Okay, and if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt, then you're going to wear the breast bar instead. Okay, we know it's going to be on what sleeve, everyone? Everyone raise your left hand. Okay, that's the sleeve where your hash marks are on. Okay, and it's going to be 4 inches from the edge. And we know we could wear those service stripes and hash marks 6 months prior to the 5-year period. Know your rules. And turn to page 21. Just be aware, the World Trade Center breast bar, who can wear that? Everybody. Okay, also, the longevity bar, please understand, not everybody can wear the longevity bar. If I have 3 years on and I'm wearing my short sleeve shirt, should I wear a longevity bar? No. Okay, not everybody. But you wear it to replace the service stripes on the short sleeve shirt. And if you turn to page 22, just be aware the American flag breast bar, who can wear it? Everybody. The newest bars, remember, is the Police Cadet breast bar. That's the newest edition. If you were a police cadet, you could wear it. And the morning pin, we talked about that. You could wear it the same amount of time somebody could wear the morning band. And it's worn by civilians who don't have shields and uniforms. Okay, let's jump to page 26. 30517, Neighborhood Safety Team uniforms. Okay, this has only been around for the last exam. It has not been questioned. I would know the basics. We know that nobody else other than the Neighborhood Safety Team can wear their uniform. Okay, their outermost garment is the polo shirt, the 1/4-inch zip sweatshirt, the neighborhood safety jacket, or the neighborhood safety vest carrier. They're allowed to wear boots, and they're allowed to wear what type of pants? It says NYPD Patrol Tactical Pants, and that's a mistake. It should say 511 Tactical Pants. Okay, and they wear a hat. They could wear a baseball cap or a knit hat. And then the rest of this procedure, everyone, is the exact specifications for the polo shirt, the exact specifications for the quarter zip sweatshirt, the specifications for the safety vest, carrier, and the neighborhood safety jacket. Okay, but know at least the basics on their requirements on what they have to wear, what uniform. Okay, one last point. Turn to page 29. 30502, uniform classifications. Okay, this has never been questioned on a prior exam, and I just want to bring something to your attention to finish it off. Here they describe the dress uniform, summer and winter. They describe the patrol uniform, 2 types of summer and 1 winter. And they have the administrative uniform, summer and winter. What's the problem with this procedure? Anyone know? When the hell is it this summer? I don't know. They don't tell us. When's the winter? I don't know. They don't tell us. So it's very hard. They've never wrote a question on this in the past. Why? Because they don't describe what summer is, what winter is. Okay, my advice to you is just read through and compare the differences between the 2 different uniforms. Like when you see summer patrol and winter patrol between the Class B, okay, the summer, well, it doesn't have a duty jacket, okay, and it doesn't have a turtleneck. But in the winter, the turtleneck becomes optional, okay, and the duty jacket, okay, is got to be worn. And when in the summer, you can't wear gloves, but in the winter you do. Compare and contrast each uniform, okay, summer versus winter. Okay, there it is, everyone. Please look up a second. 305 uniforms and equipment. Please, my advice to you is remember, you want to go home and review this lesson from cover to cover within 24 to 48 hours. And then what do you want to do? You want to do your assignments, do your activities, your core videos, your interactive learning modules, your individual procedures explained, and then answer questions. Utilize the Elite HQ. Do those questions. Do as many questions as you possibly can. There are a lot of them in your Elite HQ. And then when you're done with that, you start preparing for the next week, because we're going to be back here in 7 days going over important administrative guide procedures. Do your homework. Be prepared for class. Keep studying. Stay focused. Stay motivated. And I'll see you guys next time.